Aftanis appeared before the girl. The main character could not believe that this was really a messenger of God who was an angel. She couldn't believe her eyes and thought she was just imagining it. He congratulated the girl because she had a chance to be reborn. The girl died after all her torment. Boss yelled at her because she dared to argue when she should have said thank you because she didn't even have a higher education. The girl should have reported if she could no longer work. In other words, he will immediately find a replacement for her. Today was no different from the typical everyday life of the main character. She didn't sleep all night again. It's already 6 a.m. The girl had to return to the office before the manager arrived. In her hopeless everyday life, there was only one ray of light. The girl had to hurry up. The main character was born with a golden spoon in her mouth. But it is simply impossible to live with such brothers and father. And she had to quickly escape from this house. Her love was fantasy novels. But she didn't understand why the hell she should run away from a rich family with a handsome dad and the same brothers. Sweet Potato said that her handsome father doted on her, and that's if you don't think about his handsome brothers. And today she actually received a diamond mine as a gift. And the Sweet Potato didn't understand why she wanted to run away. The girl really wanted to take the place of the main character of the manga. She would not have run away, but simply lived happily ever after. As it turned out, reading such short stories was and will forever remain the only outlet in the girl's life. The main character believed that her commentary on the novel was the best and thought about what else she could leave so that everyone would be shocked. The angel did not understand whether the girl heard him and wanted her to at least pretend that she was happy. The heroine could not believe that she had been hit by a truck. But it was the legendary isekai truck from the novels after a collision with which a person is reborn in a fantasy world. He expected nothing less from her. She actually read a bunch of short stories, and it is not surprising that the choice fell on the main character. She must use her knowledge to properly enjoy the world created by their god. The envoy said to take the issue seriously because she must choose a novel, and God will create a world following the example of this short story, where in the future the girl will be reborn. When creating this world, Aftani studied a lot of data, but most of the details he borrowed from romance novels. God creates the world based on short stories that he hasn't even read. She was very angry. The angel from Afanes asked the girl how she liked this world. It was created specifically for a Lufan like her. Lufans are people who read and love science fiction novels. The angel asked if the lady wanted to be reborn there, but the main character refused. She didn't want to end up in a world created by a madman who didn't understand anything about these stories. The messenger began to become hysterical. He pointed out that the girl herself wanted to be reborn in the place of the heroine of the novel because she left a comment earlier. The girl considers such behavior unacceptable for an angel. He does not inspire an iota of trust and respect. She asked why the chance for rebirth was given to her and not to someone else, because there are enough people on the planet. The angel replied that under all the short stories that his god Aftanis read, there were precisely her comments. The girl's comments were not only always in the top, but also contained objective criticism of the main characters. That's why they decide to choose her, because she will quickly get used to the world created by Aftanis, the angel noted. The main character didn't understand whether this god lacked attention, because she didn't even need to live in his world, so she immediately gave 0 stars. But she died anyway, so there's nothing left to lose. The messenger's answers to the girl's questions did not reassure her at all, but still she had nothing more to lose. The angel asked, what about consent to rebirth? The main character is very familiar with the world of short stories, because in a month, she managed to read dozens of different chapters and titles. She didn't know what to do if she was reborn as a slave. Or she could become a villain whose head will be cut off through the chapter park and nothing good will come from it. It may even happen that she will become part of the crowd, which will be used and then simply thrown into a landfill. The girl still doubted, because the angel's answer was not at all comforting. After all, the answer that she would soon get used to it was unacceptable for the girl. The messenger asked if the girl was happy with everything, because she herself wanted to live in the world of a love fantasy novel. But the girl, as she wrote in that comment, she wants to be born with a golden spoon in her mouth, namely in a rich family with a handsome dad and brothers. The angel considered the guard too capricious, but the girl assured him that this was actually the basis of romantic stories. And besides, the family must almost carry it in their arms. The angel said that in short stories, this is definitely not the case, and the heroines have to gradually win the love of those around them. But the main character did not agree with this because if you remember the little lady, then everything is exactly like that. The angel said that her story begins after the death of her entire family, and if she wants the same, then he can organize it. The girl immediately refused and said that she had just blurted out something stupid and that she would think carefully about it now. The messenger waited in anticipation for the girl's answer about rebirth. She noticed that all the main characters have some special abilities, and if not, then they are terribly smart. Angel thought it was time for someone to roll their lip, but in the end he simply assured her that there was nothing to worry about. The angel said clearly that if they give her a chance for rebirth, then they will not deprive her of her ability either. Rebirth into a heroine with a handsome dad and the same brother, also endowed with a special ability, was a good option. The main character thought that perhaps the universe really decided to reward her for the life where she worked like a horse. Although she was not a saint, she saw a lot and suffered even more. She agreed with the rebirth. The girl was glad that finally something good would happen to her in her life. And then, the envoy said that the deal was concluded. Something strange started to happen. The girl had some unusual feeling, and a black portal began to open from above. When she realized that this was a deal, she immediately asked him to stop, because deals are made only with devils. Now the girl understood that this messenger was actually the devil. She screamed and said that she wanted to cancel the deal and return everything as it was before. But the envoy said that it was too late, because the deal had already been concluded. The girl finally wanted to know what kind of super ability she has. But the messenger, opening his right eye with the same evil smile, replied that her skill would suit her perfectly. The girl promised the messenger that if this is the ability to believe telephone scammers, then she will get him anywhere in the universe. But the devil said that she need not worry, because in the end she is still his property. Suddenly everything goes dark, and then a luxurious, huge castle appears. A girl with tears in her eyes washes the floor in a huge hall. It was into her that the main character was reborn. She was very upset with the fucking imp of a swindler. She wondered where her handsome father and brother were, and the situation was not like the one where she was born with a golden spoon in her mouth. It doesn't even look like wood. She sat upset and was already thinking about whether she should have been reborn at all. She was greatly tormented by the thought of this rebirth, because what she received, to put it mildly, was not quite what she wanted. This is all just a castle. Suddenly, some person on the second floor said that the girl had taken after her worthless mother and was idle again. The girl apologized and said that she would improve, and he was angry because she couldn't do anything, even something as simple as washing the floor in the hall. The man pushed the bucket. The girl apologized and said that she would correct herself by calling the guy uncle. He didn't understand how she dared to call him her uncle. She apologized and corrected herself by saying the name Marquee. The man said that she should know her place, so her dad left her. The baby was all wet, and the Marquis added that it was generally unknown whether she was the real daughter of the Duke. When the girl was reborn and saw a luxurious house, she thought that she was truly reborn into a good family, and this meant that the period of her survival was over and the period of a new life began. She hoped that she would have a family who loved her, what didn't happen in a previous life. And she can hope for a happy ending just like in a fairy tale, but she has become a nobody. She was very happy in her soul until the moment she realized what reality was. A girl with yellow hair appeared near them and asked her father what he was doing there. She looked out from the side and her father did not immediately notice her. This was the main character's cousin named Lutia. If they were in the novel, then she would be the main character. And even here the girl remained a nobody. Father asked Tia what she was doing here. The girl looked menacingly in the direction. She decisively told her father that there was no point in torturing the baby like that. The Marquis noticed that his Tia, this is kindness itself, since it even worries about the dirty brat. The daughter hoped that her father remembered that her birthday was coming soon. The Marquis said that this is why he ordered the girl to rip everything out here. Tia said that there is no need to hold the holiday in such a large room because you can choose less. But the Marquis replied that the holiday should be done on a grand scale because birthdays are only once a year. This made the girl laugh a little. Tia bent down to the heroine and wished her good luck, and she complained to Dad that because of this dirty water, her shoes were dirty. The Marquee reassured his daughter by promising that he would buy her new ones. Tia was very happy and told her father that he was the best. The main character was left alone in a huge empty room. She was as devastated as the hall itself. Tears streamed down the baby's cheeks. She stopped cleaning and went to her bedroom. She lay on the bed and thought about her life. The baby's legs were all cut up. Suddenly, Tia wakes her up and says that the girl will now only eat once a day because she didn't clean the hall. Therefore, he will remain without dinner for a week. The Marquise's daughter ordered her to stop crying. Tia added that they cannot feed the girl for free, even though they are cousins. After all, this will not be fair to the servants. Tia added that Dad always says the proverb, "Whoever doesn't work, doesn't eat." The girl smiled broadly and told her cousin to work better next time, because her duties must be performed as they should be. And in general, even because of such little things, the main character should be grateful, because her father threw her off to the Marquee but left no money. Therefore, the girl must at least earn her food. The Marquis continued after his daughter and pressed on her weak points, talking about how the heroine comes at a high price. After all, she eats a lot, and of course she doesn't need to earn mercy on his part, because out of his kindness, he took the girl into custody, although even her own father doesn't need her. But this is not surprising because the girl may not even be the daughter of Marquis's brother. The man argued this by saying that the girl still does not have magic, therefore she must at least work off food. The girl couldn't believe that everyone had abandoned her because of that devil. The girl is disappointed. The little devil promised her a loving family and a golden spoon in her mouth along with superpower. The heroine really wanted her to have a family, at least in this world. The girl didn't even notice how tears rolled down her cheeks. The baby always wanted to have brothers and a loving father. A family is her only desire, and she so hoped that she would have one. She saw that the situation was getting worse every day because she was getting weaker day by day, and no cure had yet been invented in this world. For a moment she thought that dying was the easiest way out of the situation, but she immediately threw this thought out of her head because it would be sad to die in such injustice. She promised herself that she would survive in a world with a 0 rating. Tia's birthday arrived. Everyone joyfully congratulated the girl. She stood in such a lush and beautiful dress that the tongue did not dare to call it childish. The girl saw how the Marquis adores his daughter and literally showers her with gifts. He often spoils his daughter with expensive dresses. They say that her dress costs as much as an entire mansion, and he buys her these every year. You can see how much Tia is loved, unlike the heroine. Tia stepped into some kind of slime with her shoes. The heroine was immediately ordered to wipe Tia's shoes. The girl asked the butlers if she could have something, but they ran away, saying of course. She realized that the Marquis ordered no one to help her and not to communicate with her in any way. Suddenly, the enraged Marquis shouts at the heroine, asking whether she should add another week of fasting and whether the beatings were not enough for her. The Marquis didn't understand that the little girl had to go without a week of fasting if she was behaving like this, and noticed that she should have been spanked harder. At this moment, Tia's evil smile is visible. She liked the suffering of the main character. She was ordered to wipe Tia's shoe until it shined. The girl hoped that this was necessary for the plot, and that everything in her life would change, because she is most likely really important to the plot. Ferriton enters the hall. He is handsome, tall, and his hair is darker than darkness, and his eyes are redder than fresh blood. He is the father of the main character, and only recently arrived from the front. He said that as far as he remembered, his daughter did not have golden hair. Suddenly the Marquis began to serve Ferriton, but the black-haired man said that he did not have so much time to waste it on a bunch of pathetic invertebrate creatures. The Marquis kept asking why Ferriton returned without even warning about his visit. The little girl couldn't believe that this particular man was her father. He asked what was not clear here, because his goal was already clear and drew attention to the heroine who looked like a thinner mouse. The Marquis replied that the girl simply worked in the Marquis's house. Ferriton noted that his daughter hardly looked like that. The girl understood that he would not recognize his own daughter, but she still needed to try. She asked Ferriton to take her with him. The girl knows that she is dirty, but she just needs to wash herself. She added that she knows how to cook and clean, and she will make full use of the food she eats. The Duke was in complete shock. The little girl promised that she would clean his shoes until they shine every day. Unable to bear it, the girl began to cry. The main character said that she no longer had the strength to stay in this house, and that she wanted to go home. The girl eventually told Ferreton that he was her father, because the Marquise had Tia and she had him. She tearfully asked her father to take her home. Ferreton quickly lifted the girl into his arms. The little girl did not expect such a turn of events. She could not believe that this was really happening. She was terribly scared. Ferreton said they were returning. She thought she was dreaming because she couldn't believe that he was taking her with him. She didn't come to her senses and was still hesitating whether now the terrible dream would end and she would get out of this hell. There are literally a few steps left. Tia's dress was completely torn and the servants immediately rushed to her. The Marquise cried out the name of Ferreton. The little girl did not understand what was happening and could not believe that it was his doing. The girl noticed that the Marquis didn't even say a word about Ferreton taking the child with him. The Duke noticed that they were completely insolent in encroaching on what they had no right to. The girl didn't understand why the Marquis wasn't even indignant, as if he was really guilty of something. The girl woke up in a beautiful room and didn't know what time it was. The maid was surprised that the lady woke up so early. She wished the girl a good morning. Her personal maid asked if she had slept enough. As always, the maid was emotionless, although the little girl doubts that she hates her. 10 days have passed since Ferreton took the girl to him, and her legs have completely healed, and the baby's health recovered very quickly. She felt as if she was even healthier than before the illness. The girl admired herself in the mirror. She returned to good condition, but she never saw the Duke. She couldn't even believe that she was in the reflection. Although she doesn't really want this, because she remembered how she begged her father to take her away, and she felt a little ashamed of this incident. But she can afford to worry about little things, because now she lives a good life. She feels good in the castle of Ferreton because they feed her here, don't beat her and treat her well. She would like to stay here for a longer time, and in order to stay longer, she needs to determine what the Duke of Ferreton is. She began to think that among the standard qualities she could match the qualities of Ferreton. The girl thought about justice, protection, and peace, but this is in no way associated with him, because he looks more like a villain. But in novels, there are 2 types of villains. For example, Marquis Terenko, who definitely needs to be executed. And the second type of villains are considered tyrants, who only look like that, but in fact are very good people. And the heroine classified Duke Ferreton in the second category of villains. The girl believes that she is very lucky, finally after so much suffering in her old life. And the not very easy fate at the beginning of her new life passed like a bad dream, and now she can live in peace. She would like to just relax and do nothing, but she never received what the messenger of God Aftanes promised her. Therefore, it is still too early to relax completely. The girl knew that in order to find out who the Duke really was, she had to do something. The little girl ran to work off what she had eaten during her stay with the Duke. The first thing the girl did was to wipe all the windows in the house. The maids tried to dissuade the girl from working because they could do it themselves, but the girl said that she had promised the Duke, so she had to do it. The main character said that if she could live here just because she is the daughter of a duke, she would have been here a long time ago. She was abandoned. A child who is abandoned will never truly become his own. The maids tried to stop the little lady, but suddenly the Duke came and asked the little girl what she was doing here. The main character almost had a heart attack. She didn't expect to see him because he's usually not at home at this time, and it's not clear why he returned so early today. The little girl said that she decided to clean up properly. The Duke was in complete shock and did not understand who ordered her to do this. But the girl said that she herself promised that she would work off the food. The man picked up the baby. She was frightened. The Duke noticed that he was still skin and bones. The little girl did not want to believe that she would now be thrown out into the street, and she began to cry. The man sat her down at the table and said that he repeats it again and orders her to eat. The little girl did not expect this. The table was filled with various dishes and products, ranging from chicken baked in orange sauce with radishes, ending with red fish and salads. The girl ate, but she barely managed to eat. Ferreton asked her why she stopped. Is this really all she can eat? But she simply couldn't handle it anymore. It felt like her stomach was going to explode, and with great effort she swallowed what was left in her mouth. The girl was afraid that if she didn't eat more, she would not only be kicked out, but immediately executed. This was the limit, and the baby did not understand what to do with it. Suddenly, the maid approached, asking for forgiveness for interrupting. She reminded the Duke that the girl had a smaller stomach. That's why she eats less, and if she eats more than she can, she will simply have stomach problems. The Duke asked the maid what her name was. She replied that her name was Anna. Faraton said that from today, Anna would be the girl's personal maid. The little girl was glad to know the maid's name, because they see each other every day, and she doesn't even know her name. The girl happily asked if she could really stay in the Duke's house, but he considered this question stupid. But thinking about it, she herself realized that throwing out her daughter immediately after he himself brought her would not be very nice. And he probably has aristocratic honor. She should have guessed earlier, but she was afraid in vain. She was already calm, because she wouldn't have to worry about the house because she was staying with her father. He came to terms with the fact that his daughter couldn't do it anymore. There was an awkward silence. A minute ago, the main character was busy eating, but now it was terribly awkward. She wanted someone to save her from this. A servant came to the Duke and said that because of his early arrival home, they also wanted to see him in the imperial palace. She wanted someone to save her from this. A servant came to the Duke and said that because of his early arrival home, they also wanted to see him in the imperial palace. The little girl was very happy because Uncle Adjutant was just in time. The Duke agreed and ordered the horses to be prepared. The girl realized that it turned out that he had not come in the evening because he had finished his work ahead of time. The father told the little girl not to do anything stupid. She agreed, but she was angry because she had wiped the window until it was shiny. The baby had a hard time with him, but since she really remains, then you don't have to worry about survival anymore. They feed on time and there is even hot water. Anna came and talked to the girl. The maid hopes that she has calmed down and is now sure that she will not be kicked out of the house. The girl replied that she was no longer worried. The girl is sure that the reputation of the duchy depends on her father's choice to kick her out or not. The maid said that the girl no longer needed to do maid's work because she was too young. Moreover, the only daughter of the Duke, therefore, she has nothing to worry about, but quite the contrary. Now she needs to think only about the good. After all, there will be no more problems. The girl thought about the maid's words and wondered if she really looked so nervous. And also, the maid added, the girl does not need to keep everything to herself. She can talk about any of her problems and the girls will help her. The girl was asked in surprise if the maids were worried about her. They replied that of course they were. The little girl thought that the maids did not care and that they would not like the fact that she spoke to them, and they themselves were not talkative. The maids replied that they would never answer that way in their lives, and they asked the young lady if she really wanted to talk to them. The girl quietly answered that she wanted. The maids praised the fact that the girl was completely different from other young mistresses and a completely unusual child. One of the maids agreed with this and casually said that the girl was just like an ordinary child, although she wanted to say that the girl was a very unusual child. The maid, with tears in her eyes, began to sincerely apologize to the girl, explaining what she meant. Now the little girl knew the name of another maid, Nancy, but the girl said that all this is not something scary, and she even likes being ordinary. The maid thanked her and said that the girl was very good. For the first time, the girl felt that there could be so much goodness and light in a house. Although they are a little awkward with each other, their hearts are still very happy. The girl doesn't know if it's possible to call everyone a family just because they all live under the same roof. The only thing that still bothered the girl was her mother. But was she really the daughter of the Duke? But if the words that the maid Anna said were to be believed, then she had nothing to worry about. The girl was sad because she had never seen her mother. She had only heard about her from others, and then only bad things. But it was not clear why the girl did not have magic like the entire Faraton family, because that little devil promised her power. But he didn't keep his promise. And another argument that she might not be his daughter is that the Duke has dark hair and blood-red eyes, and a face that, with its sharp shape, resembles a sword just forged by a blacksmith. And she has pink hair, the color of which is more reminiscent of spring flowers, tourmaline eyes, and a cute face. The girl began to worry again because she was nothing like the Duke. The girl wondered what if she really was an illegitimate child and the Marquee was right. The girl thought that if she really was an illegitimate child, then ordinary expulsion would not be enough here. Moreover, she sees the Duke as a tyrant with the black soul of a villain. At least that's what her Lufin radar tells her. But then she thought what would happen if the Duke became so attached to her that he loved her like his real daughter. Or at least he won't kick her out of the house. The girl thought that she knew what she could do in this case. She is, after all, a true fan of romance novels and has read thousands of titles. So I put on a beautiful dress and decided to go to my father's office. The fact that she knocked was already an achievement. The main heroines of short stories are always very brave. The girl began to remember her first memory with him after her slavery to her uncle, how he called her a skinny little mouse. She knew that he didn't like him, but then he himself approached her. She was afraid to enter right away and decided to count to 10, but his assistant opened the door and said that the Duke was already waiting for her. The little girl couldn't understand how he knew that she was coming to him. The Duke waited for her to go inside. The lady has still not come to her senses from the question of how he knew that she had come. After that, she ran to hug her father and tell him that she missed him. The girl was worried because she considered the reaction of others strange. The Duke asked if she was bored. The little girl confirmed this with a smile. He noticed that during their meal she was on pins and needles. The girl was worried because he noticed. But then I thought that it was unlikely that anyone would be able to eat calmly when they looked at him with such a look. The girl said that everything was fine and that she was just embarrassed. They haven't seen each other for a long time, and now she wants to be around her father more often, and at the same time, the feeling of embarrassment will disappear. The girl herself determined that she was an illegitimate child, so the Duke needed to become more attached to her, and in this case, even when he finds out that she is not his own daughter, he will not kill her. The man took her by the clothes. Hugging her father, the girl felt something very soft under her palms. She thought it was pure silk, but it still seemed strange to her that she could feel the warmth of his skin through his clothes. She reassured herself because she was unlikely to hold him. The girl touched his face. It was very soft, although he is already a father. His skin is well preserved like a baby's. Suddenly, a text about identity verification was flashed in front of her face. She was recognized as a reader who had made a deal with Aftanis, after which the check was completed. She had a new ability unlocked called Rush and Cash. The girl got scared and thought that she was having some kind of hallucinations out of fear. But she will never forget the name of Aftanis, because it was his guide who spoke about him. He also promised abilities and rebirth. The reader did not fully understand her power. She thought it sounded like she would borrow money from moneylenders and disgrace the whole family. But soon she switched back to her father's face. The little girl was scared because she said everything about her father's cheeks out loud. The father sat his daughter on his lap and began to poke his finger into the baby's cheeks, after which he kneaded the girl's soft cheeks. She thought it was her father's attempt to become more attached to her, and most likely, she seems nice to him. Because when an adult man squeezes a child's cheeks, the affection between them definitely increases. The baby thought she was cute. The father said that his daughter looked like an angry pufferfish. The girl was upset because he was supposed to be attached to her, but still it's not harmful to dream. After his words, the father ended the meeting and carried his daughter out the door in his arms, and he ordered her to be washed. She didn't understand why he ordered her to wash, because she was clean. Out of fear, the baby began to sniff herself. The girl didn't know why her father constantly carried her in his arms. After which she remembered what she told him about how she wanted to be closer to him. Although later I shattered these dreams in my head, thinking that this was nonsense and that I shouldn't get my hopes up so much. The maid approached the girl and asked if she was ready for a bath. She agreed because it was a good time to think. Already in the bathroom, the girl lay in thought and remembered another serious problem. When she was distracted by the Duke, the notification window disappeared and the little girl does not know how to view her incoming notifications again. Because of the Duke, she couldn't read. Suddenly the message is illuminated in front of her again, and she can now calmly read about her new skill. A celebratory letter was flashed at her, congratulating her on acquiring a new skill. It was expected that such a simple condition would be fulfilled quickly, although the girl thought of doing this much later. The letter said that he hoped that she did not call Aftanis a fraudster and a swindler, but the little girl did not consider these conditions easy. But then she herself didn't understand what conditions were being discussed. Further, the letter clearly outlined the instructions and classification of her superpower, skill level, F. The reader can use the cache to summon any romance fantasy novella from the list of unread novellas. She can summon and use the skill of the heroine of the novel she summons, but she faced a ban. After all, the use of the ability skill was blocked due to the lack of the summon attribute. The girl is very passionate about her power. She was very happy, because thanks to this ability, she can completely forget about how to survive forever. With this ability, she can easily conquer the whole world. She has already said goodbye to her long-suffering everyday life. But she didn't know what cache and attribute were. The girl received another notification. She received a task. She will need to prove her worth. After the notification, the following illuminated her. It told her that this world is also filled with danger and dangerous situations. We should not forget about the dangers of the surrounding world. A complete description of the task was revealed to her. It is up to the reader to develop her own skill through her own efforts and by proving her worth. The execution condition is to receive the challenge attribute. The reward for this is 500 cash units. The girl was highly motivated. She didn't care how difficult it was because she wanted to complete the task. That's why I accepted it. But the next question arose for the girl: how to get the summoning attribute. In short stories, the attributes are usually very rare and very expensive items. For example, a sanctuary relic and a magic tower treasure, or a family heirloom that is passed down from generation to generation in aristocratic families. The girl already knew where to find such a family item, and it was the Ferraton family heirloom. This was the only relic that could be found within the girl's radius. She hoped that the relic would not have to be hard to find. Suddenly, the girl became thoughtful and thought that she could simply ask the Duke for the relic. It's a shame, but it may also be that among the family heirlooms there won't be any summoning attributes. She decided to find the relic the next day as soon as she had slept off. She needed to make a plan. The girl woke up, and the maid asked her how the young lady slept. The girl asked Anna if she was hiding her, but maids are prohibited from entering rooms at night when their owners are sleeping. The little girl thought that, most likely, she made her way deep into the blanket on her own. The maid asked if the girl would like to change her clothes. Suddenly, the rest of the maids entered her room. The girl sweetly greeted everyone as if they were sisters. The girl saw the jewelry lying on the display case. She was delighted by their beauty. Various metal alloys and a bunch of stones, shimmering with an unlimited number of rays of light in themselves. The maid pointed to a hair clip that perfectly matched the girl with the color of her eyes. The maid asked the girl if she would like one like this because it would look very good on her. The girl replied that the hairpin looked too expensive. But the maid replied that this was out of the question because the girl deserved to wear as much jewelry as she wanted. And the second added that something much more expensive could suit a girl. The reader found the opportunity to ask where all the jewelry in the house was, calling them shiny things. The maids replied that there was not just one such room, but many throughout the house. The girl was disappointed that there were so many rooms because the search for what she needed would be more difficult. But the maid offered to look at all the decorations. The girl asked if she really could do this, and the maid replied that of course she could. The girl thought that if she could get into the best of these rooms, this would allow her to find what she wanted, namely a family heirloom. Remembering how strictly her uncle and his daughter Toy treated her, they would never have allowed the girl to approach such expensive jewelry. The girl herself didn't notice how she was plunged into memories, making a strange expression on her face. The maids were in tears and did not understand what was happening to the baby, and she, in turn, did not understand what was happening to them. The maid ran up to the girl in tears and asked what happened to her. The maid caressed the girl, feeling sorry for her and adding that she was so small and so vulnerable. The little girl didn't understand what was wrong with her face, and Nancy continued to feel sorry for the girl. The girl replied that everything was fine with her, because now she had sisters with her who were worried about her. Another maid entered the room and saw them all hugging together. The girl really likes it, finally. After so many years of suffering and problems, she simply finds herself in a place where she is loved, sympathized with, and appreciated. The maid said that if they had already started a tour of the house, then they should start from the most expensive and luxurious place. They decided to go to the estate's sanctuary. The maid from the side added that the treasury of the Marquis of Tarrant was not even close to the treasury of the Duke of Ferraton. The girl politely asked if they really wanted to go there. The maids replied that the girl was part of the family, of course. She could go there. Unfortunately, decorations can only be removed from the sanctuary with the consent of the Duke. The girl still sees the point in visiting the treasury. After all, at least he will know whether there is an attribute of summoning among his father's treasures. But as soon as the girl wanted to visit the treasury, Ferraton's assistant came. He said that his lordship wanted to see his daughter at breakfast. The girl did not understand why. She was very worried, so much so that not a single piece of food would fit into her mouth anymore. It was like everything became a lump in my throat. The little girl understood that she needed to get used to the Duke, otherwise there would be no progress. The little girl wished her father a bon appetit and smiled widely and felt that she was about to crack. But the girl decided that apparently she was trying in vain. And then she decided that then she would just eat. They made eye contact, and the father simply continued eating the meat. The little girl was happy because there was pudding on the table, because she simply adored it and was in heaven. She ate the pudding so quickly that she didn't even understand how it happened. The father pushed the pudding to the girl and told her to help herself. The girl was surprised because she thought that he was ignoring her. Because he did not respond to her wish of bon appetit, and then the Duke gave away his pudding, she was thinking about whether to ask to try it. She decided that she wasn't, and that it was still worth trying, because she needed to increase affection. The girl thought that she needed to tie her father closer to her, so she sincerely thanked him and began to eat the pudding, scooping up the dessert with a spoon. Suddenly, she wondered how she knew how a real father and daughter behaved. After all, she never had a father. And so, in a serious tone, the Duke asked the girl why she didn't stick to him. The girl did not understand her father, but she did not need to look for an answer, because he simply took her in his arms and pressed her to him. She noticed that when she woke up, her father was no longer in the house. The girl wondered if her father had decided to wait for her today. The little girl began to wonder if her father had some important conversation with her. He carried the girl into his office, sat her on his lap, and he began to write some documents. The little girl did not understand what was happening and why he was doing this. The only question is whether it happened because of her words that she wants to be close to him, or there is another reason for this. He looked at her, as always. He had a frightening look, just like his face, but it seems to the girl that he is not going to do anything bad to her, and everything seemed to be going according to plan. If he gave up his pudding to her with the same frightening face, the girl made her plan for survival. Point 1. See your father often. Point 2 was to always smile at your father, and point 3 was to increase his affection. This means that she should not deviate from the plan, but still she was very shy. She suddenly remembered that she didn't have time for the little things her father did, because she had to look for the summoning attribute. She started fussing in her father's arms, so he asked what was wrong. The little girl saw that this situation was a chance to reward her for the treasure, but she replied that she wanted to look at the beautiful sparkles. She was very scared because she again blurted out something without thinking. Language was her enemy. And so the maid bowed and reported to the Duke that the girl wanted to visit the treasury. Although the girl did not understand why the maid told this. What if her father doesn't like it and scolds her? The little girl couldn't believe that they were actually going to look at family heirlooms. Besides, the Duke has a lot of paperwork to do. The Duke took her in his arms and went somewhere with her. She could not even think that they were actually going to the treasury. The girl doesn't know what her father was up to. She was worried that she shouldn't have let her guard down so quickly. After all, she is the one who knows that one cannot let one's guard down. Having read more than one romance novel, she knows that one cannot let one's guard down even in a dream, because this world is very dangerous. What if the Duke is truly a good person, even despite his status as a thief in this world? Suddenly the girl hears the sound of the lock opening, and when her father entered the sanctuary, she was simply shocked. She saw the sanctuary for what it really was. It was filled not only with treasures, but also with various trophies. A book caught her eye, and she remembered that the message called her a reader. And then, during the explanations and details of how to use her power, she was treated the same way. The girl decided to ask what kind of book it was. He calmly replied that it was a sealing book. The girl got scared and asked if the devil was sealed there. She did not understand why her father pressed her closer to him. The assistant replied that everything was fine, because even though it was a sealing book, there was no one or anything inside right now. The man assured that the girl need not be afraid. She replied that she was not afraid at all, although her face said otherwise. She wondered if the Duke thought the same thing, that she was scared. The girl asked why they kept the book here if nothing was sealed in it. The father replied that this was the treasure of the first Duke. The little girl was delighted, because it was a very old book. She asked if she could touch the book, at least once. She looked into her father's eyes, making her face like a cat's, but it didn't help her. The assistant replied that one way or another, it was a very ancient book, and it was fragile. The girl puffed out her cheeks, demonstratively expressing her disagreement. So she saw the message. The task addressed the girl as a reader, but he asked me to show her everything she was capable of. The main condition is to assure the Duke to give her the summoning attribute, and the reward is the opportunity to win a lottery with a prize fund of 5,000 cash units. She wanted to refuse. The girl was scared by this task because she wouldn't be able to persuade her father, and she couldn't risk it that much either. But the message added blood-red text that said the following: "Refusal of a task is death. Failure of a task is death." The girl didn't know what to do, because she couldn't take the book because she would die. But he also can't help but take the book, because he'll die the same way. This is a hopeless situation. The eyes filled a little with tears. Another message was displayed to her, where she was informed that by accepting the task she had activated one of the functions, namely hints. She became interested in what these clues were, but her curiosity was short-lived, but it didn't matter, because she had to get this book. Hints would be displayed during the task. The girl hoped that she would at least be able to choose these hints. The girl saw that a heart was drawn on the Duke's cheek, and she was greatly surprised. The little girl thought that she should kiss her father on the cheek, but she knew that she couldn't trust that devil. The father noticed that the girl's face looked strange. She looked like a frog that had been strangled. It seemed to her that it even suited the Duke, but now was not the time for that. She still almost decided to kiss Dad on the cheek. I was very shy and scared. The girl calmed herself down because this was just a hint. She could do without her and the kiss. She just needs to persuade the Duke. She grabbed her father's shirt and began to pull it while saying the word Dad. She promised that she would be very careful with the book, but could she even touch it once? The girl said that she was sad that no one had read the book for several centuries. She added that she would not harm the book, but would only stroke the cover. The little girl asked if it was possible with a very cute face. Her father reacted to this differently than she expected. His gaze became even stern. And his hands, she thought he wanted to break her ribs because she kept begging for the book. Even more hearts appeared around. All the clues made the girl kiss her father on the cheek. The heroine did not understand what was happening. She realized that there was simply no other way out. The lady looked at her father's face. This is what a man who expects nothing looks like. The baby stretched out her hands to her father for a long time, but he did not understand what was happening and what the girl needed. The girl kissed her father on the cheek, following the prompt. The reader was captivated by the Duke's face. Even stony and emotionless, it looks very beautiful. The baby smiled happily at the Duke. Everyone present was in complete shock because she kissed the gentleman. The girl heard a crunch, and suddenly the glass shattered. The father broke the glass barrier to get the book. He took her in his hands. The girl couldn't believe it, and the assistant was completely shocked by the gentleman. The little girl really wanted to pick up the book, but her father did not give her permission and examined her on his own. She looked safe. Even though this book is ancient and no one has it sealed with it, you still need to be careful. The girl realized that the Duke did not take out the book not because of its importance, but because he was worried about the girl. He didn't want her to get hurt in any way. The assistant excitedly told the Duke that this book was very expensive for the first Duke. The assistant added that if the girl tears or damages the book. The Duke quickly interrupted his assistant's chatter by asking whose book this was and looked at him with a very angry look. The girl was very happy. She told her father that he was the best. This greatly surprised the ruler. She reached for the book, and the faster she wanted to take it, hearts began to fly around again. The little girl thought about what a bastard the demon was, and about what she would do to him as soon as she caught him. The girl kissed her father again. The Duke's face no longer resembled stone so much. The girl is surprised that he likes kissing his own daughter on the cheek so much. This is a sign of a loving father. The girl could not understand whether her father had become angrier or kinder. The girl touched the book and saw a notification. It said that she had received the summoning attribute and completed the task of proving her worth. She also completed the Best Expression of Respect task. She received rewards of 500 cash units and a chance to win 5,000 cash units in the lottery. She almost died from stress, but she likes the 5,000 cash lottery because she loves money. The girl added that the chief assistant of the Duke of Ferraton Urkel Viscount admires her. The girl received many more messages that Heine, the Duke's chief butler and the maid of the Duke of Ferraton's house, admired her. Her influence in the family increased. She received a reward of 500 cash units. The girl realized that if she receives a positive reaction from people around her, then she gets cash. But the girl doesn't understand why they admire her so much. In the end, her most important merit was illuminated. Namely, she achieved the highest level of satisfaction for the Duke of Ferraton. The Duke asked the little girl if she had seen enough of the book. She received a new notification, but decided to check later. The Duke came in with her in his arms. The girl thought it was very pleasant and close. She really wanted to go back to the room and find out what was going on with the lottery and the extra reward. And the girl really wants to look through the book to find out her strength. Her opinions are interrupted by people in the Duke's office. They say investors are flocking to Marquis Tarank's gem mining business like flies to honey. It is said that the Duke also invested money in Tarenka's business, but these are just unfounded rumors. They added that if the Duke had not ordered Tarenka to be monitored, they would not have known about such rumors. People learned about the rumors from Marquis Schrodel while he was drunk. Although the next day, when he was well sober, he began to object to everything. But they became a little suspicious. Despite the fact that the mining of Mana Marquis Tarank stones is very unstable in terms of its results, the number of investors has not decreased from this. The men gave the Duke a letter with a list of everyone who invested in the Marquis' business. And these were Duke Delvatrin, Duke Iskamil, Marquis Schrodel. All of them were very influential people. Duke Ferraton said that only the rich are on this list, but he thinks this is strange, because if there is no mana in the stones, then all the investments will be a waste of money. For some reason, investors are sure that there are a lot of lies in the stones. The only way to impose such an opinion on them is to lie. That Duke Ferraton also invested in Tarank's business. The men added that Marquis Schrodel would not lie while drunk. Duke Ferraton got angry. He wanted to find out who told him this nonsense, but the men don't know. Because Marquis Schrodel spoke only a bunch of unintelligible words, and they could not find out the name of the informant. It should be noted that Marquis Schrodel loves a lavish reception, and Duke Delvatrin and Duke Iskamil lead a relatively secluded lifestyle. These three persons did not intersect in any way. Duke Ferraton stood in thought. There were only two options left. Or the two of them invested without knowing about the rumors. The lady was glad that they were thinking the same thing. Or the Marquis of Tarenka spoke to them personally, the girl suddenly added. Suddenly, after the girl's words, everyone fell silent. The girl didn't even think that she said it out loud. She was in a hopeless situation, but she was embarrassed. The girl was thinking about what to say next. All attention was focused on her. The girl said that her uncle said so. She was asked if she meant the Marquis of Tarenka. The little girl replied that yes, and that it was the Marquis of Tarenka who told some man in an expensive suit that Dad had invested in his business. Her words did not sound very truthful, but the girl added that the Marquis of Tarenka was showing some kind of trick. It was a very beautiful card. It was black and shiny. The girl pointed her finger at the card that was in the man's hands, and she said that Tarenka showed exactly the same one. The assistant asked for exactly the same card, and the Marquis of Tarenka showed it to his husband. The girl was completely sure that it was this card. The men in the room were shocked. Did the Marquis of Tarenka really do such a thing? He must be a madman if he does such a thing. Was it really her that he used as evidence? There were many questions, and it was necessary to find answers to them. If the mines actually produce stones with a lot of mana, then everything will be fine, but if not, then the Duke of Ferton and all of them will have big problems, so the high society will decide that Ferrathon is involved in a scam. Duke Ferraton did not utter a single word. He kept looking at the girl and asked when she heard this conversation. The girl thinks that her father suspects her, his own daughter. The girl is afraid that if she makes a mistake, he will definitely kill her. The little girl replied that she was cleaning her uncle's shoes while he was talking to the man. The assistant was surprised, because all the checks they sent were supposed to be used to support the girl. The girl could not believe the assistant's words. He continued that the duchy sent huge amounts of money for her upkeep. The poor girl really thought that they didn't have money to support her, so they didn't feed her much, and she worked for the food she received. She did everything her uncle ordered her to do. Only on these conditions could she continue to live in the Marquise's house. The girl is disappointed how the Marquis could do this to her, because she is just a small and defenseless girl. Men don't want to believe her, but the assistant says that the Marquis of Tarenka loves his daughter madly. At the same time, the girl recalled how her uncle constantly told her that her father abandoned her and did not leave her a penny. The girl does not understand whether she is suspected or not. She said that she ate only 2 times a day because she did not earn money for the third. And when she did not have time to cope with the work for the whole day, she was fed only once a day or completely starved. The men were shocked by the girl's stories. She was worried that she would die because of an incorrectly said phrase. But it's true. The girl fell at her feet in tears and showed exactly how she cleaned her uncle's shoes. and he gave the card to the man and said that it was proof. She continued and said that he showed the card to some grandfather and a man with red hair. She is almost hysterical and assures the men that she is telling the truth. Ferreton shouted contentedly, but with an enraged face asked why the hell they were interrogating his daughter. The men assured that they did not interrogate his daughter. He grabbed everyone by the throat with an invisible dark force and began to choke. They begged for mercy. But the father did not want to hear any excuses. Through them, he remembered what he saw in the Marquee's house when he came for his daughter. He extended his hand to the baby. He did not want to interrogate his daughter. The Duke only cared about her. Ferreton took his daughter in his arms. Seeing the stained sleeve, he ordered to call a tailor. He announced the next topic to be discussed. The girl wakes up in her own bed, surprising, because just now she was in her father's office. Apparently the maid moved it. Seeing that the maids were nowhere around, she took out a book. This book has outlived all the Ferreton. The book is so old it's almost falling apart. She hopes nothing will fall out of it once she opens it. Of course it's risky, but curiosity takes over. She throws back the book and the whole room is filled with a golden glow. Surprisingly, the book she had just opened was old and almost fell apart, but now it is in perfect condition, like new. She opened the book. It contained a bunch of black magic spells and a key to obtain divine power. The girl thought that if this is a sealing book, then there must be a way to seal the demon, or a spell to summon it. She began to leaf through the book to reveal her full ability, but when she opened the book completely in the middle, it turned out to be empty, after which she received a notification. It said that the summoning attribute seal had been lifted, and now the restrictions on using the ability were also lifted. The girl can finally use her ability. She is very happy. But now she has been given a new task called the Path of a Worthy Reader. Its conditions are to use cash units to summon a novel and draw power from it. The reward for this task is 1,000 cash units. The girl was surprised why the program asked her to do what she herself wanted. But how can she summon the novella? She has no idea how to do it. She started trying different options, starting with just waving her hand and shouting appearance. Then, remembering the experience of all the short stories she had read, she checked to see if there was anyone nearby and extended her hand up. In addition, uttering a request to heaven that they allow us to endure the stupidity of the main character and not strangle her through the screen. She got a notification that said that in order to use the power, she just needed to say the name of the novel she was reading. The girl felt ashamed. Her strength is currently bronze level, and she can call upon powers from the romance novels she has read. She called the novella, "I was born into a rich family, but I still want to escape." Thanks to the abilities of this novel, you can forget about the fear of exile or death. But suddenly, she did not have enough cash to call this novel. The girl is angry, because in this life she does not have enough money. She was illuminated by a notification that she had 1,000 cash on her balance and a lottery for 5,000 cash. She ordered the lottery ticket to be used. The girl is disappointed because this lottery is an ordinary scam. She decided to be optimistic and hope for the best. She received a greeting about winning 100 cash units. Just like in her previous life, she won a maximum of 101, while others won 1,000 or even 5,000. The girl was lying upset. It's unlikely that 1,100 cash would be enough for her to call the novel. The notification said that there were 1,100 cash units on the balance. The little girl didn't understand why put pressure on the patient if she herself knew. She remembered another message that she did not have time to read. The girl did not receive a reward for the fact that the level of satisfaction of the Duke of Ferreton reached the highest value. After the calculations, she was given a reward. It was the opportunity to rent the novel for 3 days. The girl was very happy with such an award. It was even much better than 5,000 cash, because it was not a chapter, but a work. She is very grateful to the Duke, although she does not know why she pleased him so much. As it turned out, collecting cash is difficult, but for now she will save her capital for something more important. The maids knocked on the girl's room, and she quickly hid the book. They apologized for not being there when she woke up. The girl replied that this was not such a big problem. The maids asked the girl if she was hungry. After all, she missed dinner because she fell asleep. They decided not to wake her. The girl replied that she didn't even notice how she fell asleep. The maid replied that most likely the girl was just very tortured. No one expected this. The maid said that the girl nodded off at first and then completely sat down on the Duke and fell asleep. She was shocked when she heard, The maids were even scolded for being so bad at holding back their laughter. The girl was scared and hoped that it was the maid who carried her. But Anna replied that the Duke did it. The girl said that next time the maid should do it for him because she did not want to be a heavy burden for him. But the maid said that her father truly appreciated her because he not only carried her to bed, he also called a tailor to make clothes for her, although he himself is so lazy to do this that the butler always needs to look for some kind of approach to the Duke. The maid added that Duke Ferriton was truly worried about her. The girl realized that she had made the maid worry about herself again. The girl replied with a sincere smile that she was fine. The maid continued by saying that the Duke simply did not know how to express his own feelings. The maid shared that she previously considered the owner to be perfect in everything, and there was nothing about him that could be found fault with. But he did not need loved ones, and did not understand those who try for the people dear to them. The maid since then began to doubt the Duke's ideality, but after she saw the Duke's attitude towards his daughter, she understood everything. He just doesn't know how to express his feelings. The girl asked if she really had feelings for her, and the maid replied that she did. And recently they have learned about those aspects of the Duke's existence that they had no idea about. However, members of the Ferriton family are different from ordinary people. The girl wondered what the difference was between them and ordinary people. Another maid corrected her colleague by saying that she just wanted to say that the representatives of the Ferriton family are special. The girl heard enough to understand that her family was not called ordinary, and she said that she was very hungry. The maid asked if she should set the table right away. The girl wanted to know more about her father and her family. The Marquee did not understand why Duke Delvatrin wanted to withdraw the investment. The Duke replied that it had just become known that the Marquis Schrodel wanted to withdraw from the list of investors. Also, another investor stated that he wants to terminate cooperation. The Marquis of Terenka was upset and anxious. Star was the last of the investors, and Gelion Bank refused the loan request. Marquis Terenko has had his title for 5 years now, but is about to fall to the bottom with just one movement of the Duke of Ferriton's hand. Did investors really find out that Ferroton did not invest in Terenko's business? But he couldn't figure it out, because the maintenance check assured them that Terenko was right. He couldn't figure out how the investors knew this information. Terenko wanted to use the resources of his family, but if the truth reaches his father, he ordered his servant to do everything so that his father would not find out anything and called Tia to him. The man called her to send her to the house of the Duke of Ferriton because she missed her. The girl was surprised because she had never been interested in her. The Marquise continued that no matter how she is her family, they grew up together like sisters. She replied that if all this had come to this, then let this mouse go to them, and not she to her. The Marquise replied that he knew that the girl needed to visit Tia, but it is unlikely that Ferriton will fulfill her request. The girl said that indeed, apparently everyone in the house hated the Duke's daughter. After all, she was the only one who treated her well. Nothing can be done, Tia will have to go. The Marquis was very pleased with his daughter. He ordered his daughter to find out how the Duke's daughter lived and how Ferriton was doing. She was self-confident. She believed that the girl would be happy to see her, and she added that this mouse will probably be in 7th heaven when he sees Tia. At the same moment, the Duke's daughter had an itchy ear during a meal, and she did not understand the reason. The next day, the girl sat down to draw. She was in a good mood, so she sang along to a cheerful melody. The maid said that the girl drew beautifully and called what she was drawing a pineapple. The girl turned around and said that it was not a pineapple, but she were holding hands. The maid held back her laughter, after which she began to praise the drawing. Although she said that it looked like a pineapple, surprisingly, the girl's plan worked. She was thinking about how to appease several more maids in this way. The little girl began to imagine how the maids gave up everything for the sake of her drawing, and they are even ready to give their heart to the little lady, and they would behave like stalkers. While the girl was daydreaming, the maid called her for a walk. The maid invited the girl to visit the glass gallery, which is located in the Duke's house. Now the girl believed in the world of the novel. She ran with all her might to look at the glass greenhouse. Going down to the greenhouse, the girl got caught and fell right at the feet of Duke Ferriton. He asked the girl what she was doing here. She replied that she had fallen. The Duke asked a strange question why she fell, but for her the answer was absolutely logical, because she fell. At the same moment, the maid ran up and said that children at her age very often stumble and fall. But Duke Ferriton believed that the girl was weak and therefore fell. She asked her father to take her in his arms. Dad silently picked her up. He saw small scratches on the girl's knees, got a little angry, and walked in the other direction. The maid followed him, but the girl still wanted to go visit the glass greenhouse. The Duke sat the baby on his knee and was surprised why her knee turned so red. He decided to treat the wounds with a special ointment so that after a few days, not a trace of them would remain. The Duke knew that she was weak, but for Duke Ferriton to say so much. The girl began to worry that her father would abandon her again due to weakness. Is she really an illegitimate child? Moreover, there is not a drop of magic in it. Ferriton independently decided to treat the girl's wound. The maids were surprised by this because they did not think that he could handle it himself. The girl contorted her face in fear. She thought that now the wound would be very hot from the ointment. The maid intervened and said that she did not want to bother, but the craftswoman from the clothing store came. The maid added that the Duke had a meeting soon, and it was better to leave her to the maids. The Duke did not answer and went to meet the seamstresses in person, not paying attention to the meeting. Surprisingly, the men followed him. The tailor is happy to finally see the girl. They have been creating beautiful dresses worth a castle for several years. It's a pity because children's clothing only lasts for one season. It's all money down the drain. The seamstress started from the very bottom, and now she sews clothes for His Majesty the Emperor. Her name is Eutrophalia. She looked exactly like a stylist, with an interesting short haircut and an extravagant, beautiful suit that emphasized her curves. The woman is sincerely glad to see the lady who was so carefully hidden from her all this time. The maids were incredibly interested to see the result. They believed that the girl would be an exact copy of the Duke and his sons. Strands so black, it was as if the darkness had swallowed up the light, red bloody eyes, and a bestial gaze emitting an extremely strong aura. The designer created a dress for a beautiful and fragile girl, presenting her as very tender. Her colleague bet that the girl, even at a young age, has unrealistic charisma. But the fashion designer replied that one should not expect a member of the Ferriton family to be cute and charming. Even if she sees a small copy of the Duke, she must not show disappointment. The Duke entered the room and the women greeted his lordship. The craftswoman hoped that the girl would be very sweet and charming and not an obvious copy of her father. Seeing the girl, the seamstress was very surprised. The girl she saw was so sweet and beautiful that Eutra could not even control herself and began to praise the girl. But Duke Ferriton did not need praise for his child. He briefly and sharply ordered that the girl's measurements be taken, at the same time holding her in his arms. The craftswoman asked to lower the child from her arms to take more correct measurements. But on the other hand, she decided not to expose herself to greater danger, and she began to take measurements of the girl right in the Duke's arms, saying that it was even more convenient. Eutra noticed that the girl sat very politely in his arms, even when she was taking measurements. Apparently, she loves him very much, the woman told the Duke, and added that he was lucky to have such a beautiful daughter. He replied that the girl was simply always with him, but it gave him a little trouble. The girl did not like her father's words that she was doing extra trouble for him. But the craftswoman added that the Duke apparently protects her very much if he decided to come to take measurements in person. Duke Ferriton is at a loss for words because he said that the girl simply falls very often, like a newborn fawn, and he has to carry her in his arms. The butler added that little miss absolutely adores her father. The men began to tell how sweetly she fell asleep on the Duke's lap. The Duke remembered that when he came from the war, his daughter fell into hysterics, that some evil man had come. The girl saw pain on her father's face. But at this time, everyone around could not cope with how cute His Majesty's daughter looked, and how sweetly she hugged him. Eutra added that she must be so comfortable in her father's arms. And a man who came to the meeting shared that he was terribly jealous of the Duke because he was lucky to have such a wonderful daughter. Although all this chatter made him nervous, the butler asked the girl if she loved her father. The little girl replied that she loved her, but the answer did not satisfy those present, and they asked how much she loved her father. They wanted the girl to say that her father is the best. The girl was tired of all this, and she showed how much she loved her father. Touching finger to finger, she said that's how much she loves Dad. Everyone around asked the girl. She said that she loved her father, that's all. And once again showed the gesture with her fingers and added just a little bit. Everyone present in the room forced the girl to tell her how much she loved her father. Already mentally they began to write a will, dig their own graves, and plan suicide. But the girl added that if you take away just a little from her love, so much love will remain. The little girl spread her arms on both sides to show how much she loves her father. The little girl added that if you take away a grain of sand from the universe, then what remains will be how much she loves her father. All those present were enlightened by the girl's improvisation, but the Duke said that he had not heard. The girl repeated that if you take away a drop from the universe, then all that remains is the girl's love for her dad. Everyone was delighted with the daughter of Pharaton. They asked to share the secret. But the Duke didn't really like this whole kindergarten. He asked the girl why she even decided to take something away. But, at this moment, she had not yet come up with an idea. But she quickly got out of it by saying that she wanted to love her father even more thanks to spending time together. The girl added that if her father was always there, her love for him would become even stronger. Everyone who stood in the room understood why the girl took a little bit. The girl was praised in different ways. They said that she was such a young lady, but already thought like an adult. And everyone was simply speechless at how sweet the girl was. The reader is happy. Everyone seems to have fallen for it. But the girl saw her father's look. It looked as if he didn't like it. Yutra noticed that while the girl's size was larger in previous years, she thought it was strange. Even the clothes she brought were a little extra, but this shouldn't cause problems. The woman asked to lower the child to the ground so she could try on clothes, but the Duke asked why the girl should try on this. He added that they already take all these clothes, just let Yutra. We'll fit everything to the girl's size. The Duke said that he buys absolutely everything that she brought. Yutra considers herself very lucky. She replied that she was obeying, but the Duke put forward a condition, so that the sleeves are either exactly to the wrist or very short, so that she cannot take the sleeve with her fingers and lower it to her palms. The baby thinks that the Duke is not her real father, although he seems not so bad. Meanwhile, Tia arrived at the house of the Duke of Pharaton, although she was not very happy about it. She saw the entire castle. They say that if you collect all the Duke's gold, you will get a mountain higher than the magic tower. Apparently, the rumors are true. Tia was surprised and asked why they didn't stop at the gate. It was just an extension. Here, everywhere you look, every building resembles a main mansion. No one was warned that the daughter of the Marquis of Terenka would visit the castle of Duke Pharaton. Tia was surprised why some poor butler was greeting her. She came to visit her beloved cousin. Does this really require permission? The butler replied that next time a formal letter requesting permission to visit should be sent. Otherwise, the butler will not be able to let the girl in. She and her maid walked defiantly with their noses up in front of the butler. She was amazed by the grandeur and beauty of the castle. Everything was so luxurious. She ran and looked at everything that was in the huge hall. Suddenly, she saw a portrait depicting Duke Pharaton. The previous time, the girl could not see his face because she was very frightened. She was surprised how a mere mortal could look so majestic. Tia dreamed that her father would be like Pharaton, but he will also work well in the role of an uncle. The girl is very confident in herself because even the maids from other houses are delighted with her. This means that Pharaton will definitely be delighted with her. Tia knew that the more a person is afraid, the more lonely he becomes. Therefore, it is she who will save him from loneliness. His uncle definitely needs him, Tia was sure. She believed that a child born out of wedlock would not give the same love and joy that she would give. Tia wants to take her cousin's place. The lady is sure that such a dirty child does not have the slightest right to live in such a luxurious estate. Suddenly, she saw the same scary and dirty little mouse, but the image of the mouse was only in Tia's head. She was shocked by how beautiful the girl looked and how good the color of her hair was. It's like a completely different person in front of her. Tia wondered if she had always been so beautiful. She was furious because her cousin didn't even pay attention to her. In her opinion, she is even more unscrupulous than Tia could have imagined. The little girl said that it would be more shameless to appear in the house without an invitation and not even think to say hello. Tia replied that she came to her cousin because her father said that the girl missed her very much. The little girl asked with a grin. She began to read out morals for the girl and say that she should be ashamed of such behavior. Although it's not that the reader didn't get bored, she simply forgot about the Marquee and his evil daughter as if it were a bad dream. She decided to put pressure and said that her dad told her that the baby was not the daughter of the Duke and that she was an illegitimate child. And her mother cheated on him. She called the girl an illegitimate freak, and she didn't understand how she dared to live in the house of Pharaton with her head held so high. Suddenly, an immediate task dawned on the girl. She needed to get rid of this lump in her throat. You can't do without a sip of refreshing soda to make your life easier. Oddly enough, before her rebirth, she even left a similar comment about the main character. The reward for completing the task is the opportunity to win a lottery with a prize fund of 2,000 cash. Penalty for uncompleted task, temporary removal of reincarnation improvement. The girl was ready to do anything for the sake of the cash, so she accepted the task. For the little girl, cash was above all else. But Tia did not understand that this was happening to her cousin. Tia thought that if the girl was silent and didn't say anything, then she finally understood everything. The girl shouted, "Hey Tia!" She asked her cousin if she had said this to her. The little girl asked haughtily if anyone other than Tia was in the room. Tia didn't understand how this mouse even dared treat her like that. She got angry as her cousin still looked down on her. The girl asked the main characters of the short stories to give her strength. But she answered Tia that she hadn't even started to look down on her yet. She wanted to press on a weak point by saying that if the cousin put on a beautiful dress, then everything suddenly changed. Tia said that Duke Farraton simply felt sorry for her because she looked too insignificant, and added that this dress was not the girl's property. The baby was surprised that some dress had pissed Tia off so much. The uninvited guest added that if her cousin continued to behave so condescendingly, then everyone would turn away from her and hate her. Tia said that her father said that if she was treated specially, she would take it for granted. That's why he gave her as much food as she earned. But as it has now become clear, her father's attempts to raise the girl were in vain. Tia said that she wouldn't be too surprised if Duke Farraton kicked her cousin out of the estate. Be kicked out someday, but she definitely wouldn't be kicked out for what she said now. The girl called Tia the daughter of the Marquis of Tarenka and shouted to her with rage. She asked her how dare she call her, the daughter of the Duke of Farraton, arrogant. Tia didn't know how to respond and said that the reader should treat her with respect, and was surprised that she wasn't taught manners. The little girl considered herself simply irresistible, and the only cooler thing is the egg. She, as always, used her only argument that the girl's mother cheated on Duke Farraton and gave birth to an illegitimate child. The girl asked if she was responsible for her words. Tia calmly replied that she was answering. Tarenka family at stake. She agrees again. The lady said that she would ask her father now. The girl started to leave, but Tia asked her to stop. The reader stood her ground and wanted to ask the maid about her pedigree, because the daughter of the Marquee was interested in this. She ran into the arms of her maid, and with tears in her eyes said that the girl called her arrogant, and that Tia should bow before her. Tia showed herself to be a victim, as if she came here for her cousin and she treated her so badly. Tia's maid began to lecture the girl about how she had no right to behave like that. But here, everything is different. The girl is completely safe. The girl's maid, Anna, said that she sees how Tia and her maid have completely lost their fear if they allow themselves to speak to the daughter of Farraton in such a tone. Tia's maid replied that she simply asked her cousin a question about her actions, because she needed to immediately indicate where the girl was wrong. Anna stood her ground and asked where exactly the girl was wrong. After all, it was the Marquise's daughter who behaved badly towards young Miss Farraton. But the maid stood her ground, adding that Tia did not intend to insult the girl and even brought a gift. And the gift was one of Tia's dresses. She added that she saw how her cousin looked at them, and that's why she decided to give it to them. Tia walked closer to Miss Farraton and looked into her eyes with an evil smile, asking if she wanted him. The Marquise grabbed the girl's hand and invited her to make peace, and she added that she apologizes for all the rude words. She still wanted to add something, but she was interrupted by the Duke of Farraton himself. The man said that Tia talks too much, like she was stealing his daughter's dresses. Everyone is surprised why the Duke is home so quickly. An hour ago, he was sitting in the interview room with a very angry face. They said in the room that a common solution needed to be found, and that the issue of awarding awards to different military divisions needed to be examined again, piece by piece. And later we need to get together for a second discussion. They looked at the time. It was already late. The man did not know whether he would have time to buy his daughter an eclair, but he was assured that there was nothing to worry about, because he could always ask a servant about it. But the man refused, because the eclair bought by the servant could not compare with what he himself would bring. The man said that every time he comes to his daughter with an eclair, she will happily greet him and kiss him on the cheek. Unfortunately, perhaps all the eclairs from this confectionery have already been sold out, because they instantly fly away. Therefore, it is unlikely that he will have time to buy anything. This means that he won't receive a kiss from his daughter either. Fury appeared on the Duke's face, and everyone around became worried and decided to continue the meeting. But suddenly the Duke asked where exactly the pastry shop with these eclairs was located. Everyone who was at the meeting was seriously worried. They thought that the Duke suggested another topic to kill them all right here and now, because he is a terrible person. The men politely asked if he was really interested in these eclairs, but you wouldn't guess right away. But suddenly his colleague interrupted and scolded him, saying that the man's insight was zero, but from the very beginning he speaks and then thinks. They continued the meeting, but the assistant approached the Duke and whispered something in his ear. The Duke instantly got up and went, saying that he had urgent matters to attend to. The men in the room insisted that the Duke had already missed more than one meeting, and they needed to sort everything out. He glared at them and asked since his attendance at meetings became mandatory. The previous time, he ran away from the meeting after learning that his daughter was wiping the windows, after which the Duke stopped going to them altogether. And all because the girl wanted to always be near him. Tarenka had arrived at their castle, but he was much more enraged by the poor treatment of his daughter than by the fact that his name was exploited in the Marquise's scam. Surprisingly, Duke Ferreton is a special person. He does not need emotional connections and affection with people, and his sons are the same as him in this regard, everyone except the daughter. The assistant said that it was nice to look at her and quickly corrected himself by adding that it was nice to see how much the Duke protected her. The Duke replied that this goes without saying. He is obliged to protect her until she grows up. Although for Miss, the Duke is just an ordinary loving father, no different from others. The assistant asked if he thought his daughter was cute and beautiful. The Duke ordered the assistant not to talk nonsense. He instantly apologized. Although the Duke understood what was hidden behind the question, the assistant did not understand what the Duke was talking about. Ferreton continued that the daughter cries a lot. She falls and cries again. Probably the fact is that she does not have magical powers. And that's not all that's surprising for the Duke. It's strange to him that she says that she misses him, and when she kisses him on the cheek, and also falls asleep right on his lap. Although the Duke considers his behavior much more strange, when he looks at her, his body reacts very strangely. His theory is confirmed every time. When he is next to her, he feels completely different, and when he himself feels as usual. Presumably, these are the dirty tricks of the Marquis of Tarenka. The assistant asked to describe everything in more detail, because it was akin to a curse using the blood of a relative. The Duke said that the heart trembles and buzzes, as if instead of a heart there is a hive filled with bees that are constantly buzzing. The assistant realized that this was not a curse at all. He asked if his heart was starting to beat loudly, like it was abnormal and was constantly squeezing. The Duke replied that these were precisely the symptoms, and he always wants to feed her something. When he is alone, he does everything for the Empire and his hands begin to work, while his head has not yet had time to think. And when he sees his daughter, all he wants to do is bite off her cute, chubby cheeks. The Duke said that this was a serious illness, but the assistant thought to himself that this was not an illness at all, but simply mad love for his daughter. Progress is visible. The assistant hopes that one day the Duke will find out the real name of this disease. The Duke ordered to go to the pastry shop, but the assistant said that they had probably sold out everything. The Duke didn't answer, just looked at him. The assistant remembered who was really in front of him, so he decided not to risk it anymore. You apologized to him. The butler asked if he should buy the girl eclairs. The Duke agreed, but then decided to go there himself and buy them himself. The assistant asked if Ferreton would definitely buy eclairs. He told the assistant to simply say the name of the bakery and where it was located. The Duke left, and he himself ordered the assistant to find a store with toys for children her age. Ferreton already knew why the Marquis of Tarenka sent his daughter to him. She ran to the Duke with hugs and a dress in her hands, but the Duke answered what kind of rag she was in her hands and walked around her. Then he took his daughter in his arms. But she's not his family, Tia thought. She began to get out of the situation. She thought that she could frame the girl, as if her daughter had told terrible things about her. After which, the Duke began to treat her poorly. Tia said that she forgives the Duke, because he simply became a victim of his own daughter's lies. The Duke's daughter asked what exactly this lie was, but Tia stood her ground and said that she herself would apologize for her cousin. Tia thought that everything worked, because the Duke's face changed. She added that the daughter apparently lied to her father that Tia stole her dresses. The Marquise did not stop, so she said that she understood her cousin. Apparently she was lying to look better in the eyes of her father. The daughter of the Marquis of Tarenka is so confident in herself that she has no idea what it's like when she is ignored, when she is refused and told that no one needs her. And that's why even now the girl cannot stand up for herself. The Duke was very angry and did not understand how Tia dared to say such things about his daughter. Tia said that she had no need to steal his daughter's dress. She even brought one of her dresses to give her as a gift. The Duke asked what kind of dress he last saw on her. She didn't understand what he was talking about. Farrakhan continued that on the day he picked up his daughter, she was wearing the dress he had sent for her daughter. And only now the girl realized that her father did not treat her badly. He was talking about how she was dressed and what condition she was in. Tia said that all this was nonsense because her father bought her that dress. She said that her father buys her such dresses every year for her birthday. The Duke asked the girl whether exactly every year. He was so angry with the girl that he could barely contain himself. Tia said that this was her dress, considering the Duke's daughter a fool. She couldn't stand it and said that his daughter was weak-minded, and that's what her father and the maid told her. The Duke asked what her father said about him. She replied that he was a cold-blooded killer with darkness running through his veins. He didn't know what sadness was, and if he cried, someone else's blood would be shed. Tia wants the Duke's daughter to always be in the shadows, to always have fingers pointed at her, and to be bullied by everyone and everything. This is how she sees his daughter's life. Tia added that the Duke's child was just a brat who had stolen her place. The Duke replied that even the milk on Tia's lips had not dried, and she already wanted to die at his hands. He said that she might not expect a pardon. She knelt down. She didn't understand what was going on and asked for help. Tia imagined how she, instead of the baby, was sitting in the arms of the Duke, and she was kneeling in front of them. The girl's self-confident face instantly filled with horror. The Duke released her, ordering her to disappear. He sat with his daughter on his lap. She was drinking tea and could not understand what had happened between them. As soon as Claudia called the girl brainless, at the same moment the room became completely black. But compared to the previous time, she felt safer, as if night had fallen and she could close her eyes and rest. And when she opened her eyes, she saw that everything was back the way it was. The Duke called his subordinates and said that today an insect entered his house, which not only encroached on what it had no right to. He asked how to punish those responsible for allowing this insect to sneak into his house. The servants all unanimously said that they deserved to die, and only they were to blame for this. The young lady could have gotten hurt because of them. The Duke did not want to get his hands dirty and ordered the servants to kill themselves, but his daughter had a different opinion. She didn't want people to get hurt because of her, such nonsense, so she shouted that no, it's impossible. The Duke said they didn't do their job, and so they must answer for it. The little girl said that Claudia just came to check on her, and then they quarreled a little. The girl said that children often quarrel over trifles, so Dad doesn't need to punish the guards for this. The gentleman asked Urkel his opinion about this. The man added that Miss, as always, is absolutely right. And as far as he knows, children really do quarrel quite often. The little girl's throat was so dry, the tea was simply divine. The father looked at his daughter and said that she had a mustache. The reader was very surprised and did not understand what he was talking about. Dad wiped her face. The main character couldn't believe that he had turned on the mode of a caring father who wipes his child's dirty face. The butler could not believe that his master could behave like this. It was simply unthinkable. He had never done anything like this before. But then the little girl decided that she was just daydreaming. And for one thing, I remembered that they were having a serious conversation here. The fate of a dozen people was being decided. The little girl didn't understand what was going on. Their looks were very strange. The baby received notice that the servants of Duke Farrakhan were deeply grateful for her kindness. My daughter was very interested in how these guys survived here all this time. Influence within the Farrakhan family has increased. For all this, the girl received 5,000 cash units. She was very happy because it was an immediate guarantee, and not a chance to win. The Duke's servant noted that the lady was in excellent spirits and a real cutie, and added that she should be very comfortable on her lap. The Duke added that he has no idea why she behaves this way, but the girl believed that this did not concern him at all. The baby is very tired. Claudia returned home to the Marquise of Terenka. The lady really wanted to sleep. The soda quest is automatically completed. The counting was over and it was a partial failure. The main character was very angry and did not understand how this happened, because Claudia returned to herself and considered this a success, although she doesn't really know how it ended, because it was so dark that she couldn't see anything. The girl was very scared because there was also a fine. The fine calculation has begun. Since the failure was partial, another fine was assigned. The penalty was stale soda. It was disgusting, no bubbles. The little girl didn't know what kind of fine this was, but it sounded insulting. The reader received a message that she did not deserve to be the main character. While the fine is in effect, she should reflect on her behavior. Her reincarnation buff will disappear randomly. The girl did not understand what it meant to accidentally disappear. Initially, the penalty was the cancellation of the reincarnation buff. Due to the fact that the failure was partial, this buff will begin to randomly disappear. Buff she had. The girl swayed from side to side. Someone knocked. The little girl allowed me to enter. It was the Duke. The girl was scared and didn't understand why he came. For some reason, the lady doesn't even want to get up. The penalty for not completing a task is activated. The girl was very scared because her reincarnation buff was about to disappear. The father sat down next to the baby. She noticed that nothing seemed to have changed. The girl was hungry and wanted to sleep. The daughter told her father, "Yum yum," thereby hinting that she is hungry. Dad asked again. The girl sadly asked if there was a yum. The little girl with a smile asked her dad to give her a cookie. And then the main character realized that she had accidentally slapped the Duke on the thigh with all her might, so she was very scared. The baby began to understand that the loss of the reincarnation buff means the loss of the ability to think like an adult from her past life. The main character did not want to believe that she would behave like an ordinary doll. Suddenly her thoughts became a little more reasonable. The little girl didn't understand how it worked. The reincarnation buff will appear randomly. The girl began to knead her thigh with her paws like a kitten. She thought that this was too much and hoped that the cash would not be taken away. The little girl understood that if she wanted to survive, she should under no circumstances anger the Duke. Dad asked how she was doing with Akitas. My daughter asked me what Akitas is. The father said that this was the book that she took then. The girl remembered that beautiful book. The Duke asked if she was beautiful. The girl said that she was fine. Dad thought about it. The main character said that that book changed a little in appearance and became very beautiful. So also shining. The baby reached out to the Duke because a heart appeared there. She repeated that he was handsome. The father asked if she was talking about Atticus. The little girl agreed. The girl also added that when they say that a person is handsome, then they should say, "Thank you." The Duke was surprised. My daughter said that she would also say thank you. The ruler did not understand what he was talking about. The main character loves it when people say nice things to her, and she assumed that Dad was probably happy now too. The little girl thought that suddenly after that he began to like her more. She hoped that was true. The Duke wondered how beautiful that book had become. The situation is terrible, but she is home again. That is her returning mind. The girl didn't know what to do now, because now the book is completely different from the one her dad gave her. She thought it would be better to just confess. She knew that she couldn't lie, and thought that he would probably forgive her for being honest. But immediately she stopped, thinking that this was a very valuable book. First, for her sake, the Duke had to break that display case. And now, through her fault, Akitas has become a completely different book. She decided that they might begin to see her as a walking problem. The little girl assured herself that everything would be fine, and she just needed to have courage. The Duke was waiting. The girl could not withstand his gaze, so she began to say that she did not spoil the book. She was very scared. The butler was upset because the little vixen had upset their miss very much. The master had just gone to see the baby, and the servant hoped that he could console her. But I noticed that he had already left. The man asked the gentleman if he had already talked to the miss, but the servant didn't like the man's reaction, and he decided that the conversation was simply not going well. He hoped that Miss was not upset to the point of tears. The Duke asked Heinz to answer him honestly. Lost in thought, the Duke asked if he was scary. This question scared the man terribly, and he asked if the ruler could repeat the question. The Duke asked the man to simply forget about it. The Duke covered his mouth in horror when he realized what he had said. The little girl cried and said that her dad was not scary. The Duke did not understand what was happening. The girl rolled on the bed and screamed that she didn't intentionally make the book different, but he still glared at her so creepily. The main character said that her dad is not scary, but very handsome. She screamed that her daddy had a diamond mine. The Duke said that he was also rich and that she had not only a diamond mine, but also a gold mine. The little girl added that her dad just adores her to death. And he truly loves her. The man was sure that she had ruined the book. Also this hysteria with whims. She is still small, but she is still one of the Ferriton. And so the Duke had to be disappointed in her, but, oddly enough, he doesn't even want to punish her. On the contrary, The little girl said that she hates him and he is not her daddy. This surprised the Duke. The man asked if it was true, barely holding back his laughter. And then the Duke noticed that the maids had left the room. The Duke asked what they had there. The maids were very frightened when the master addressed them. One of them said it was nothing important. The gentleman said that he decides whether it is important or not. Without hesitation, the maid handed the Duke some piece of paper. When the man opened it, he saw a drawing there. The maid said that the lady actually drew this picture. The Duke thought for a moment and asked again. The woman showed how in the drawing she and Miss were holding hands, and in the next picture she hugs her. Another maid boasted that she painted it 3 times, and then one of them noticed that their drawings were unlikely to compare with the one she gave him. After all, he was her dad, because they assumed that she had drawn a whole stack of drawings for his lordship. They were sure that Miss had drawn a cool dad. But the Duke did not react at all, and the maids became thoughtful. The man reported that he received nothing. The maids were as shocked as possible and didn't even know how to react and why they were even saying this. The little girl thought about what she had done, because it's as if she's asking for death herself. Because of this fine, she is finished. Nancy decided to take stock of what had happened recently. The Duke sat opposite, waiting. The head butler, worried that Miss is very upset, sends the gentleman to console her. However, she ended up crying during their conversation, although she had not cried before. Moreover, his lordship is unlike the rest. I have not received a single drawing from Miss, although he is her father. The conclusion suggests itself. Nancy said that it seemed that Miss simply hated his lordship, but others immediately interrupted her so that the Duke would not hear it. The servants immediately pulled Nancy out of the room, gagging her. Anna decided to ask if Miss said anything while she was crying. The gentleman said that the little girl told him that he was not her dad, and also said that she hated him. The maids were shocked. Nancy asked if he hugged her when he consoled her, or smiled with warmth. The Duke did not understand why he should do this. Anna couldn't believe it was true. She asked the gentleman if he felt something when he hugged her over and over again. The man thought about it. The Duke began to remember. He felt her gentle breath, soft cheeks, puffed up like a puffer fish. Anna advised the gentleman to visit her one more time. Nancy said that it was he who brought the lady to tears and that he should console her. Yum means yum, and what is Patenka? The servants were in complete shock. The main character did not know what to do now. Perhaps she is not even his family, but she dared to say such a thing. The baby has grown old from all this stress. Anna asked Miss how about dessert and if she was hungry. But the girl said that she would not, because she will die soon and she has no time to eat. Anna understood that nothing could be done, and she probably wants the food her dad will bring. The little girl jumped up when she heard about this, so she asked again. The Duke came into the room. The daughter was glad to see her dad, but she could hardly call her dad because she felt guilty. The man said, "Yum, yum, served." The girl was pleasantly surprised. It was simply delicious. The father asked the little girl if she liked it, addressing her informally. The girl said yes, and then the main character noticed that he addressed her directly. The Duke ordered her to answer, again turning to you. The little girl did not understand what it was and what was happening to him. The man sat in confusion. The man looked at the cheat sheet and indignantly did not understand, because it says that he must treat the child with respect. Therefore, he does not understand what the problem is. These were secret life hacks from Anna. The little girl was in complete shock. Now she understood that this was his way of trying to show her respect. Still, the Duke squeezed the piece of paper in his hand. The gentleman asked if she was very scared today. The little girl said a little yes. The Duke said that no one here dares to harm her. Neither the Marquis of Tarenka nor his daughter can do this. He will never let them into this house again. The baby realized that he thought it was because of Claudia. It turns out that he came to his room to console her. The baby doesn't know when she will fully turn into a baby again. As long as she has at least a drop of sanity left, she needs to seem like an exemplary daughter. The little girl said that she was also wrong, because she said she hated him even though she didn't. It was the honest truth. The Duke asked if she wanted to say something. The little girl said it was nothing. Under the influence of the fine, she became overly sensitive. The main character needs to be a good girl in order to survive. The man asked if she wanted it even after, despite the fact that he left her alone in such a place for so many years. The girl began to talk about how there must have been such circumstances, but he said that there is no need to think like that. Because whatever the reason, he shouldn't have left her in a place like this. She has the right to cry. The main character burst into tears. She asked him why he came so late. I didn't understand why he left her. The girl said that she was very scared, and she missed her dad terribly, and I really wanted to see him. Every day she waited for Dad to appear. He's her dad, and she doesn't understand why he left her. The Duke hugged the baby and said that he was incredibly guilty of her. He apologized quietly. It felt warm. Now he really has become the baby's dad, and even if they are not related to each other, they are still together. This petition urges them to immediately take control of the situation. It says that if they take this into account, then there will be no need to worry about future plans. However, when they personally checked the situation, the problem turned out to be not so pressing, and yet it cannot be ignored. Squeaking was coming from. And more importantly, the Duke will not tolerate such a sound. The Duke stood up abruptly and jumped out of the window. The men were shocked that the gentleman jumped from such a height. They asked him where he was going. They assumed it was because of that very sound. There was a girl on the street. She was very happy to see her father, but at the moment she was under the penalty. The little girl told her daddy to catch her. Now the men understood the source of this sound. The girl looked like cotton candy. The man took his daughter in his arms and said that if she ran so fast, she would fall and get hurt. The Duke smiled and hugged his baby. The men were in complete shock because they had never seen the gentleman like this. The ruler said that before starting the meeting, he must mention one important point. Ferreton ordered to listen to him carefully. When his daughter walks slowly, her shoes make one sound. In such a case, they have no reason to worry. But once they hear the fast version of this sound, they must be ready to protect her daughter with their lives. Well, or they can satisfy their curiosity by finding out what will happen to them if something suddenly happens to her. The men promised that they would protect Miss at any cost. For her sake, they are ready to do anything. The Duke said that they could now proceed to the beginning of the meeting. The fine was removed from the baby. She was very angry that she was being embarrassed in front of them like that. To begin with, they wanted to discuss the upcoming celebration with the gentleman. They were wondering if he was going to attend it with Miss. The Duke said that she was still small and he did not want to show his daughter to the old foxes. The main character suggested that we were talking about celebrating the victory with which he returned home. Then they will remove Miss's name from the list. The girl remembered something and called her dad. The father asked what it was. The little girl said that she wanted to say something in your ear. The man leaned over, and then the little girl asked him what her name was. This question horrified the Duke. The ruler asked again. The baby repeated once again that she wanted to know the name, and she added that she also wondered how old she was. The girl did not understand what was happening. Thinking for a moment, the heroine decided that she shouldn't even have asked this. The Duke even suspended the meeting. It was the first time she saw her father like this. Even those guys, when they left, were perplexed. The man was shocked that the baby didn't even know her name or age. He did not understand how they addressed her in the Marquise's house then. The baby was very sad because she tried to say it quietly enough, but it turned out that everyone heard. Shame. But there really was no one calling her by name. They called her simply you. They called her useless. None of these words were her name. She was also called an illegitimate child and a disgrace to the family. Trash. Her father said she didn't need to remember that. Just like last time, when she told them that the Marquise did not receive money to raise her. The little girl thought that he didn't believe her, but that was not the point. The Duke simply doesn't want her to dwell on painful memories. The main character admitted that she does not know her name or age, but she is not ashamed and she does not feel any regrets. Even though the Duke does not know how to express his feelings, now she understands that he does all this for her sake. After all, now she has a dad. The Duke smiled and said that this was true and no one would dare to shame her. He called her by the name Lutia. This is exactly the name of the main character. The little girl thought about it and realized that she had already heard this name somewhere. The girl began to delve into her thoughts. She remembered how her mother said that she loved her and wished her to be happy, calling her Lutia. The girl remembered that they really called her that. She asked her dad to call her by name again, and the man did. The little girl said with a smile that it was her. The baby was sleeping, and she felt very good and warm. She noticed that she had imprinted on red. This surprised her because her bed was light. She looked up and saw her father next to her. She slept in his arm. Dad asked if she woke up. Lutia wished her father good morning. The main character did not understand why he slept with her. She saw the stains of her tears on her father's sleeve. Lua asked him not to leave. The Duke had a lot of papers. Lutia said that if Dad leaves her and leaves, then she will really hate her. At the time, the baby was under a fine. It's not the right time again. Lua didn't understand what she was doing. She felt somehow ashamed. Dad called the baby a crybaby, and he added that she looked just like a Crucian carp with those swollen eyes. Lutia asked her father if he was in pain. Her father grinned and asked if she thought her little fists would hurt him. But the girl said that she was not talking about that, but about his scar, and pointed her hand at the Duke's stomach. The man replied that he didn't really and covered his daughter's eyes. Lua didn't understand why he did it. My father said it was because he looked scary. The little girl asked if he was wounded so badly in the war. The Duke replied that this was not at all true, and added the question of who she took her for. The girl began to blow on the scar. The man did not understand what the girl was doing. Lua said that you need to blow on the place that hurts. Dad said that this is an old wound and it doesn't hurt anymore. Lua said that it was necessary anyway, because when he was wounded, she could not do that. Lua said that the cat is in pain, the dog is in pain, but Dad is not in pain. The father repeated once again that he was not in pain. The little girl said that he had been hurt before, which means there's no way without it. A person always feels pain when he is hurt. Wary glances full of hatred, fear. The Duke knows from his own experience that such people really hurt. Dad said he should have blown on her wounds too. Lua was perplexed and asked again. Father said that's exactly it. When they brought her home, she was very sick. The little girl never saw him then. Therefore, she asked him if he had come to see her. The Duke said that he was with her every night. Lua thought he never visited her. The Emperor made a real fuss about his return from the war so early. He had to go to the imperial palace every day. And when he returned, his daughter was already asleep. At the front, the Duke felt no pain. His thoughts were only occupied with how to return home as quickly as possible. He didn't even notice the pain, doing everything he could to get back as quickly as possible. He would like to take the baby home as soon as possible. Lua admitted to her father that she didn't even know he was in the war, and I thought that she was simply abandoned at her uncle's, like an unnecessary thing. The Duke apologized, but Lua said that everything was fine, and now she knew that he left because of the war. And yet the baby would be much better here, even in his absence. Dad said Lua was truly special. She has no magic. The girl did not want to believe that he suspected that she was not his daughter. And without magic, Lua is no different from an ordinary newborn. Unable to withstand the magic that her brothers exuded, Lua could die. If the Duke had been here, he would have been able to protect her. But the man had to go to war. And then the Marquis of Tarenka offered to take Lua, his niece, under his own guardianship. Besides, she and his Tia are exactly the same age. And he said that for an ordinary child, family is very important. The Duke sent the baby to the Marquis to protect her. He even sent reports saying how good Lutia was living there. The main character didn't even know about it. He sent her to the Marquis of Tarenka to protect his daughter without magic. Dad apologized for this. It was strange, it was all the Marquis's fault, and the girl didn't understand why the Duke was apologizing to her. But Lua must know one thing. Her dad never abandoned her. The little girl never even had such a thought. Now the main character understood that he really never left her, and so she asked if he agreed to be her dad. The Duke agreed, and Lua asked if he would be a dad even if she had no magic. Dad promised that he would not leave her, no matter what happened. The main character understood that this meant that he would be with her forever. The main character burst into tears. She called Dad. The father hugged the baby and kissed her, besides saying that Dad was nearby. In fact, Lua did not want everything that she wished for the devil then. She grew up an orphan and was alone all her life. All she wanted was a loving family. This would be more than enough for her. The baby now knew that this year she would turn 4 years old. Dad told Lua that she got dirty. The Duke also said that her birthday is October 11th. The little girl wondered what month it was. Lua realized that it was already her birthday. Dad confirmed this and said that she will no longer have a birthday this year. Dad told Lutia that even though they couldn't celebrate her birthday this year, they would definitely do it next year. Moreover, the celebration will be grander than that of a member of the imperial family. The little girl suggested that her father felt guilty for not being able to congratulate her. Lutia asked if her dad sent her gifts on every birthday. The father confirmed this. The girl realized that the dresses that Claudia wore every year belonged to the baby. The Duke said that this family of rats was stealing what was Luatia's. The main character was pleased that her dad remembered her birthday every year, despite the fact that he probably had a hard time during the war. Lua thought he didn't like her birthday. The Duke asked why this was so. All this time she could not ask about her mother. The baby was told that she was born as a result of betrayal, and then her mother actually died during childbirth. The main character really wanted to know this, but she did not dare to ask the Duke about this. But now everything is different. Luatia said that when she was born, her mother was like a star in the sky. The Duke asked who told her this. The girl admitted that she was her uncle. The Duke's face changed instantly. The Pope told Luatia to go to him. Lua stood up from the table and began to walk towards him. The Duke sat his daughter on his lap and said that she had been lied to. And that day her mother did not become a star in the sky. She breastfed her and gave her a name. The little girl asked if this was true. The girl realized that it was not because of her, and those words of hers were not dying words. Now the main character likes the name even more because it connects her with her mother. The girl noticed that her mother seemed to love her very much. The Duke said that he was so strong that he almost didn't let her out of his arms. Luatia's birthday should definitely be celebrated. Dad smiled. The Duke added that in future they would never miss this holiday. His hands were a little rough, but they were very large and warm. The main character was wondering how her mother died, but she still has her dad. The little girl asked her dad to promise her that he would always remain her dad. The man smiled and said that he promised. But Lua interrupted him and said that everything had to be done properly, stamp, signature, and copy. This surprised the Duke very much, and he asked for a copy. The little girl did everything and said that now he will truly remain her dad, no matter what happens. Dad asked if it would be like this, despite the fact that he is not handsome. The little girl didn't understand what he was talking about. The Duke added whether it would be so even if he was not a rich man and did not adore her to death. The girl remembered that she had said the same words to her father before. She was very scared because she didn't think about it then. The Duke said she needn't worry, because now he meets all her criteria. The main character herself noticed this. He is the most handsome man in the world and the richest. The little girl noticed that it was going to rain. Therefore, they need to quickly go inside. Luaticia asked what about being adored to death. The Duke was ready to give his life for the baby, even if she herself told him to die. The men shouted that this could not be ignored. The Marquis of Terenka has gone too far. One of them added that he felt something was wrong even when they found out the truth about the money to provide for Miss. She didn't even know her name. The Duke asked how things were going to be with the Marquis of Terence. Following the Duke's orders, they cut him off from funding. Potential investors realized what was happening and refused to cooperate with him. In addition, high-ranking officials who have already invested in Terenka's Mana stone mine are withdrawing their investments. The Duke wondered what the likelihood was that the past Marquee would help him. But Terenka does everything possible so that his father does not find out anything. Now gold rules the world. They live in an era when the wealthy bourgeoisie is superior to the dining aristocrats. Little by little, drop by drop, the Marquis of Terenka will lose absolutely everything, and then she will feel such despair, which I have never experienced before. However, this is not enough for the Duke. The baby slept sweetly in her bed. But suddenly a task came up, which woke her up. Luaticia was very angry because she is only 4 years old and still a child and should sleep. Or he is ready to answer for the fact that she will not grow up due to lack of sleep. The message said that right now Duke Ferriton was making a plan to take revenge on the Marquis of Terenka. The girl was very happy because the Duke personally wants to turn the Marquis into a cake. It was written about hopes that she was not happy because there is a kick in the form of a refreshing soda. She must take revenge with her own hands. The main character, of course, loves to strike back in novellas. But what can a 4-year-old child be capable of? According to the conditions, she must take back what was bought with stolen alimony. Lua had no idea how to do this. For compliance, the previous penalty is removed. Being a true Lufin, she cannot continue to walk around with the stigma of a stale soda into battle. Lua accepted the task, now she needs it. The notice asked if she wanted to summon a novel using a rental novel. Lua had to say the name of the summoned novel. She decided to call I Seduced 10 Men in the Reverse Harem World. The girl decided that she would call on one short story and take the power of the main character for herself. The main character assumed that she had already been called up. Something is now written on the pages of the book. The little girl would never have thought that she would call for this particular novella. Long story short, she abandoned it because the plot was boring. Because the main character didn't even kiss anyone. She did not think that she herself would retrieve this novel from the palaces of her memory. Live forever and marvel. Although this phrase sounds strange from the mouth of a 4-year-old girl. The notice asked if she wanted to extract the powers of the novel's main character using her ability. Her current level allows her to gain 5 abilities. Her level allows her to use only one of the 5 abilities, so she must choose an ability. They had already bullied the poor little girl with their randomness. This did not allow her to relax in any way. But still, reading 1,000 short stories developed her instincts with a bang. Lua believed in her hand. The main character decided to restore justice after that lottery with a pitiful winning of 100 cash units. She chose the ability, "I'm not flirting, I just see your feelings." The emotional state of the selected person will be displayed in a pop-up window for 3 hours. The main character was happy because he pulled out what he needed. This is literally the ability to read minds, but the efficiency is reduced. Lutia was very angry because she didn't understand what was wrong with her abandoning her, and she should have been warned about this in advance. The little girl calmed herself down because she believed that everything was not so badly. Because this is enough to deal with the Marquee. First, she needs to do some reconnaissance. The man said that he heard that the duchy did not invest in the Marquise's business. Another man demanded that the Marquis give him back his money until he sued him. Everyone expected answers from the Marquis of Tarrant. He asked them to calm down because this was misinformation. They should look at the receipt with the Duke's signet. They should all understand that this is not a fake. The men asked if he wanted to say that the duchy was misinforming them. The Marquis said that this is such a naive question, and they can judge for themselves whether it is profitable for the original investor to allow many others to invest in the same business. And they will have to share the profits. They did not understand whether he was saying that the Duke wanted to monopolize the profits. And because of this, he spreads false rumors. The Marquis said that we were talking about the Duke, and if he wanted, then a little lie would not play a big role for him. They couldn't argue because Duke Ferreton really has a bad reputation in high society. The men asked for proof of the contract concluded with the Duke. He said that he could not show the contract to 3 people, and he asked if they would trust him after that, because in this case, he could show outsiders their contracts with them. The Marquis asked if they really thought that Duke Ferreton had what is called justice and morality, ethics and benevolence. Physical evidence speaks louder than 100 words, and only they can decide what to do about it. The men asked for time to discuss. The Marquis left. He didn't expect the old guys to be so meticulous. But fortunately, it's only a matter of time. The maid approached him and told him that he had a guest. This surprised the man very much, and he asked again. Standing on the threshold was the daughter of Duke Ferreton, Lutia. The Marquis was surprised that she came alone. The maid asked where to take the girl. The man ordered to take her to the glass greenhouse. The woman asked if he was sure. The Marquis said that the girl probably ran away from home due to the Duke's oppression, and he must console her. And as soon as these old guys decide to do something, he must inform the Marquis. He decided to use this simpleton to extract more money from the Duke, and then even declare that Ferreton decided to double the amount of investment. He considered himself simply a genius because he had a great idea. The man imagined the little girl telling him that he had a wonderful, wonderful garden. She would really want to go back to him, and that this little one somehow managed to lose her head from the beauty of the greenhouse. The Marquis wanted to pretend to console her, and she herself would want to return to him. But when the Marquis saw her, so beautiful and well-groomed, he was in complete shock. He didn't understand why she was wearing such a luxurious dress. He asked if the little girl wanted to meet him. The Marquis assured himself that she began to look only a little better. The girl said that she had come to get her money back. She activated her ability. The object was the Marquis. The Marquis was very angry, and he asked what money we were talking about. When Lua repeated that, her Marquis immediately went wild. He rushed towards the girl and began calling her names. The Marquis was shocked and angry at her statement. Lua asked him to sit down first. The man does not understand what she allows herself. And how dare she even turn up her nose in front of him? The main character was glad that he was her prey, and she decided that she had had enough of being called a stale soda. The guard thought the little girl was very cute. Lua said that she was not going to be nice to the man who had been stealing her money all this time. The Marquis was in shock. He pretended that he did not understand what she was talking about and what money she was talking about. Lua said he used the money to support her for personal purposes. So it's theft. The Marquee called her an ungrateful upstart. The Marquee said that he could have thrown her out into the street, but instead he raised her almost like his own. The little girl thought that if she could read minds as easily as the heroine of the summoned short story, then everything would be easier. Lua said that the Marquis spent her money to buy a mine with mana stones and the right to mine them. The Marquis was very aggressive and did not understand what she was saying. Therefore, he bought all this with the investment of Duke Ferreton. Lua said that one way or another he still took advantage of the Ferreton family's money. The Marquis feels ashamed that a little girl could reproach him. She said it was somehow strange. From Duke Ferreton he received money only for her maintenance. The Marquis said with horror that he invested in his business but did not give money for her maintenance. Terenka is still angry but relieved. He visibly relaxed. Lua didn't understand why he should relax, because that's exactly what he should be worried about. She decided to add something about a mana stone mine. The Marquis did not understand that a little thing like her could know about the affairs of adults. The Marquis of Terenka became agitated. Lua was happy because she had hit the bull's eye. She noticed that there was something strange here. She heard that he had convinced several aristocrats to invest in his business using the Duke of Ferreton's name. The Marquis did not understand what was strange here, because such a large business always requires significant investments. And anyway, it's none of her business. Lua asked why he was shaking so much. The Marquis was at a loss. Because of her words, Marquis Terenka began to get nervous. Lua said it looked like he was desperately trying to hide something. It was simply pathetic to look at him. The Marquis of Terenka comes up with an excuse. The Marquis said that out of respect for their past, he decided to tolerate her antics, but he was tired of listening to her nonsense. It was written on his forehead that he was about to wet his pants. A man approached the Marquis and said something in his ear. Terenka said that he was too busy to listen to this nonsense, so he ordered them to leave. The guard did not understand how the Marquis dared treat a young lady like that. Lua ordered him to stop. He couldn't just leave. Because the main character has a task. If she fails, she will forever remain an ordinary baby. The right to the mine and extraction of mana stones can only be obtained from the Marquis. She began to think about simply stealing the necessary documents. The guard said that it seemed like there were other aristocrats in the mansion. Lua didn't understand how he heard, standing further than her. The servant told the Marquis that they had made a certain decision and were now waiting for it, so even better. Lua said they were coming because they were probably investors in the mana stone mining business. Most likely, they are in the Marquis's office. The time has come for a public execution. Physical evidence is indeed more powerful than some rumors. The Marquis did not understand what they were leading to. They said they would not withdraw their investments. The Marquis was very pleased and thought that everything was already hooked. This little thing spoiled his mood, but in the end everything settled down. The Duke's daughter came in and said that perhaps they should think again. The Marquis immediately became angry. The girl greeted her and said that she was the daughter of the Duke of Ferreton named Lutia, and had the honor to greet such noble gentlemen. They were very happy to see her, because the Duke's daughter is very cute. It seemed to one of them that he had already seen her somewhere. The Marquis asked what she had lost here, and he said that she should not interfere in adult conversations. The man said he thought it was forgivable. They were all curious about what the Duke's daughter looked like. She asked again what she meant, which is worth thinking about again. Lua said she was told that they were people of great intelligence and talent. The girl was confident that such obliging gentlemen would agree to listen to her, despite her young age. The men noticed that she was indeed one of the Ferretons and asked what she wanted to tell them. Lua said that her uncle claimed that her dad invested in a mana stone mine and asked why they thought he was so insistent on it. They said that this was because the fact of investment from the Duke guaranteed the presence of mana in the mined stones. In this novel, during excavations, empty stones without mana are often mined. However, the mines where the Duke invested are always full of stones, filled to the brim with mana. He's never made a mistake yet. People believe that the accuracy of such predictions is due to the magical abilities of the Ferreton family. However, Dad said that he did not invest anything there. The man added that everything was correct. The Marquis began to say that he had proof. Lua asked if this was strange. If her dad invested in this mine, the local rocks must be full of mana. The profit from their sales is enough to drown in money. And why then is the Marquis of Terenka so desperate to hold on to their investment? Marquee added that this is why children are not allowed to attend meetings. He said that Lua doesn't know this, but the business of mining monastones requires a huge investment. And yet one of the men said that this was commendable because, despite her young age, she herself came up with this idea. However, the Marquis of Terenka is right. If there is not enough money to implement the plan, there is a need to attract investment. Lua didn't understand why there was little money and thought it was strange, because she didn't think that her father's money was not enough for them to steal as much as they needed. The Marquis was in complete shock and did not understand what she was saying there. Lua said they cleaned it out. Everyone started laughing, and she said that even the owner of the mine cannot mine mana stones simply because he wants to. First, you need to get a license. The preparation process, obtaining a license, and the production itself are very expensive. The baby said that she knows, but her dad can cover these expenses. They thought about it and realized that if they thought like that, then she was right. Lua asked why then give her uncle some pennies, and she asked what prevented him from investing a large amount and then profiting for himself. She's very curious about what's going on. Lua didn't understand why her uncle was trying to get investment from so many people, so he is also petty and goes out of his way. After all, they could not get the required amount by turning to Dad alone. The Marquis of Terenka had concerns about his level of intelligence, Lutia. The little girl took it out and asked if her dad didn't give enough money. The Marquis was horrified when he saw the checkbook in her hands. He rushed towards the baby and told her to give it to him, but the man grabbed this checkbook. He asked Lua if he could take a look at it himself. The little girl agreed. Lua asked if they really thought that amount was small. He reported that the money received from Duke Ferriton for a year was more than enough. The Marquis of Terenka sent a curse towards one of Lua's parents, but she wanted him not to even try, because her daddy is stronger than that. Lua said that this meant that Uncle had enough money all along. Marquis Terenka was very angry with the child, and now Lua has some confusion about why his uncle was trying to get their investment. She decided to switch to heavy artillery. She said that he probably wanted to divide this profit among everyone, and she called the Marquis very generous. The Marquis of Terenka feels a strong desire to stop Luatia's life. Now the men understood that the Duke had not invested and the latter had enough to produce on his own, so he could do without them. And if you used the money received by Ferriton, you would not have to share the profits with anyone else. Lua added that in the spring and summer so many guests came to the uncle, and probably these were mine workers. Uncle had already started mining stones, but apparently there was no mana in them. Wanting to appropriate all the profits for himself, the Marquis invested money in the production for its maintenance, but the business failed. To hide the gap in his losses, he planned his scam with the aristocrats. It is their investments that would compensate for unjustified expenses, and the Marquis could blame the pronunciation on the unsuccessful prediction of the Duke of Ferriton. The Marquis of Terenka would definitely do this, so they solved the puzzle. The truth is always the same. Lua asked her uncle if he was ready to return the money and extended her hand to the Marquis. The money he stole from her dad. The little girl couldn't believe that he really wanted to transfer her ownership of the mine and the extraction of mana stones. The three angry aristocrats remained in the office. The Marquise was very angry because she herself asked him for it. Lua said this in order to preserve her dignity in the eyes of those guys. But since the Marquis was going to make amends, would he really limit himself to this? She wondered if he was serious or just joking. The Marquis of Terenka barely restrains himself from organizing a meeting between his fist and the face of Lua. He was very sick. The little girl said that he could snap back by stealing her money, or maybe he was just testing her. The Marquis clearly has no conscience, but he still has a desire to protect his reputation. Due to severe dizziness, the emotional activity of the Marquis of Terenka is suspended for 3 seconds. The Marquis told the girl to just say what she wanted and quickly get out of here. The Marquis of Terenka began to receive a verbal stream of words from the little girl. There was still a little time left, and the little girl asked if she should continue. Terenka did not know what to do. The baby was happy and quickly ran home. She was happy because she was now rich. The task was completed and influence in the duchy grew. All these notifications were very pleasant for the main character. The fine came into force for the main character. Suddenly, the men called out to the young lady. The little one turned and said that she was Lutia. They assured her that they remembered the name, and they thought she was very nice. The lady boasted that it was her mother who called her that. The man tried to speak on her behalf, but the little girl interrupted him and said that she was 4 years old. The aristocrat has never met a 4-year-old child with such a level of intelligence, and the family has excellent genes, hence the amazing heirs. And yet only one mystery remains. Why did the Duke give money to the Marquis in principle? Lua said she knew the answer. The little girl said in a whisper that it was because her dad loved her very much. Men thought she was just a charmer. Lua said that it was not a secret, but simple. The man noticed that this was not surprising. Still, his daughter is really cute. Luatisha said that she also adores her dad. The man asked if she wanted a cookie because Grandpa had a lot of things at home. The man added that Duke Delvatrin does not look like himself, and he asked if she charmed him that much. This baby saved them from huge losses, and he, of course, will care for and cherish her. Lua was surrounded by love. The guard told the lady that it was late and his lordship would be worried. The baby said goodbye to her grandfathers. She said it was time for her to eat chocolate cake. The men exuded the most charm. Duke Delvatron asked Marquis Schrodel what was the matter. The Marquis had a feeling that he had seen this little girl somewhere, but the man did not understand where, because all this time the Duke's daughter was hidden from prying eyes. The Marquis decided that apparently he was simply mistaken, and this was hardly possible, because they were very different. Children adapt so easily, like a tree that grows differently depending on the soil where it is planted, like a seed with endless potential. He is very interested in how she will grow up. The guard said that she was simply incomparable, and he was very sorry that the lady did not have magic. But today he was even more touched than when the second eldest gentleman killed the monster at just 2 years old. The main character was shocked that he killed the monster at just 2 years old. The guard expected this from her. He is sincerely touched by the lady's eloquence. Lua wanted him to stop crying quickly and didn't understand why he was so sensitive. She decided to wipe away the guard's tears. The Duke came up from behind and said that he looked good with his daughter, and they cooed so sweetly, like a real family. The guard was very scared when he saw the gentleman, and Lua was very happy. Luatisha did not understand why he was trembling so much and said that he might calm down when he stroked her cheek. The man wanted the lady to stop immediately and did not understand why her cheeks were so tender. Lua asked if he felt better and added that he was lucky that she was such a kind girl who helps everyone. The little girl didn't understand whether something hurt him or whether he was just so deeply touched by it all. The Duke was interested in what kind of need he was talking about. Lua noticed that it didn't look like curiosity, but like a desire to kill. The guard prayed to be saved. Lua also thought that Dad was interested in the limits of the human body. All the servants greeted the little lady very joyfully, and they welcomed her home. The man said that he would bring something refreshing right away. The maid said that the lady was probably very tired and asked if she would like to change clothes. The baby remembered that now she has a home to return to. She told everyone that she was back. It was a home where everyone was welcome. The Duke understood that his daughter was extremely dangerous. And at that time, Lua thought that the cake was just a miracle. She is able to control others without even knowing it. For example, now for some reason, the Duke really wants to stroke this cute little head. And this desire is so strong that he is ready to break through the wall. The gentleman was asked what happened. The Duke said that everything was somehow strange. The butler, horrified, asked if the dessert was the problem because he hadn't even touched it. But that's not what the Duke was talking about. He feels full just watching her eat. The man was absolutely serious in his words. He said that it seems his youngest can control the reactions of others. The servant did not understand how this could happen. The young lady has no magical abilities. This is the first time a child without magic was born into the Feraton family. He decided to call her ability crazy about his daughter. And he added that no matter what, this is an extremely dangerous ability. The Duke asked Lulu if she understood exactly what he wanted from her. The little girl said yes. Well, she again awakens this furious impulse in the Duke. It seems to the ruler that his daughter's smile is causing devastating damage. He suggested she check it out. The answers to these questions are extremely important. The Duke turned to Lulu and asked her what if someone decided to pat her on the head. The girl said she didn't want to, because it's prohibited. The Duke asked what if he tried to squeeze her cheeks. Lulu said no, and she will never allow it. Feraton asked what if he sat down and offered some treats, and the little girl said that this was impossible. The Duke continued to ask about the kiss on the cheek. The servant stood in complete bewilderment. Lulu said he was bad. The man asked what would happen if someone decided to pick her up. The little girl said that he would immediately become a kidnapper. The ruler was happy and said that she was very smart and was all about him. The servant thought it was a complete nightmare, but the words were somehow weak. He thought that it would be better if Lulu answered something like, "Put away your rake, or you'll say goodbye to life right away." But Anna was against it, because she said that their mistress should use only kind words and censored language. The servants told the Duke so, but she will not immediately cut off the offender's hands, but will first give a kind warning. The Duke believed that this met the criterion of kind words. He reached out to the baby and she said she didn't want to. Lulu started screaming at the Duke and telling him what he couldn't do. The daughter called the Duke a kidnapper. The man was in complete shock. The butler noticed that he was shaking. He continued to reach out to the baby, but Lua threw his hand away and said that was out of the question. She called Dad bad many times. The baby sat waiting for praise from her father, and the Duke sat in bewilderment. The servant had never seen their impenetrable Duke so devastated. The man said it felt like a knife had been stabbed into his heart. The servant noticed that he was definitely bleeding. The Marquis of Ferreton stood before the Marquis of Terenka. He shouted at him and asked why he even allowed himself to do this. There were a lot of dead people around. The Marquis said that if the Duke left his house now, he would not make a big deal out of it. He burst into him criminally and didn't even bother to hide his face. It was simply unheard of. An ominous black aura that absorbed all light. Magic. The Marquis said that despite the fact that he was a duke, he would not get away with this, because he had no right to break into his house. The Duke didn't care. The Marquis said that his family occupied a high position in society, and if His Majesty and other aristocrats find out about this, the Duke asked what would happen if they found out. The Marquis said that if his father was informed, he would not sit idly by. The Duke said that this was no longer his concern, because he will die much faster. The man tried to stop him, but in vain. Terenka did not understand why the Duke was doing this to him. He admitted that he had not treated the young Lady Ferreton well, but she is not his family, and he assured the Duke that his sister shared the bed with another. The Duke stood in front of the dying Marquis and asked what he was saying about his daughter. The ruler was simply furious. He was simply furious, and the Marquis could barely breathe from fear. Ferreton wanted only the death of the Marquis. The beggar continued to beg for mercy from the Duke and asked to save him. The man added that the previous Marquis asked him to give him something. The Marquis was shocked that he was alive and his neck was intact. Otherwise, he thought that Ferreton had cut his throat. But they are, after all, relatives, so the Marquis decided that the Duke had spared him. The Duke said that not only did he not deserve the title of Marquis, but he was not even capable of bearing the surname Terenka without disgrace. The Marquis did not understand how it ended up in the hands of the Duke. Signet ring confirming his primacy in the Terenka family. He is always cheerful around the neck of the Marquis of Terenka. He didn't want this. The Duke said he had no right to wear it. The confiscation of the ring means that the Marquis is deprived not only of his title, but also of the very name of the Terenka family. Without the seal of the head of the family, the Marquis was simply horrified. He understood that he was simply finished. At the Ferreton estate, the maids asked the little girl if she had heard about what happened at the estate of the Marquis of Terenka. Lulu didn't know what happened. Nancy said that his title was taken away from him and he became a commoner. The main character didn't know why and asked if his own vassals stood up against him. But that was not the point. The previous Marquis wanted to live quietly for a while and temporarily transferred the title to him. In fact, the Marquis only performed the duties of the head, and he did not have access to all documents and property. In search of recognition, he went into business, which turned into fraud. Even his wife decided to divorce him. Lulu was shocked that it even came to divorce. He, of course, deserved it. But somehow the plot development was frighteningly fast for a Korean novel. The baby asked what would happen to Claudia if the Marquis and his wife divorced. Marquis wants take her to yourself. But Tia doesn't want this, because if she goes with her, she will have to live with the Viscount's family. Mom doesn't understand what's wrong with her. Tia screamed and said what she wanted from the previous Marquis. And she screamed that that girl lived in a duchy, and she was being pushed into a viscountcy. The Marquis's daughter threw a tantrum, because if she stayed with her mother, she would only inherit the title of Viscountess. The little girl wondered how Nancy knew all this. The maid said that the information web of servants encircles the entire globe, but she does not talk about the affairs of Duke Ferreton. Anna told her to stop talking and helped her. Nancy said that if the lady wants to take anything else with her, because she will pack everything. Anna showed the suit and said that this suit would look lovely on a lady. Others wanted to see her in it too. Gatherings always take place in bustle and noise. In a week, they will leave the estate on the island and send her directly to the Duchy of Feraton. The little girl was shocked that they wanted to cram the whole house in there. Lua thought that aristocrats like to live next to the ruler of the state. The Duke is done with the work, so they immediately returned to their territory. The man told the gentleman that he himself must understand that a war hero should not miss the victory ceremony. The Duke decided that then they would be there for a minute and immediately go home. Papa Lulu is not made by a finger. Also, Nancy mentioned that the duchy is in the north, and the classic Duke of the North of such short stories. This is the main character's dad, stern and indifferent to others but affectionate, like a warm son to his woman. The baby had new notifications. The novella cannot do without the Duke of the North. The girl was asked if she wanted to check. She decided to take a look while she was sane. The main character looked at her inventory. She was shown her own statistics. Using blackmail wisely, she robbed the Marquee. It was a compliment, and a chain task was received. There was a lot more, but she decided that she didn't know anything because Lulu was too young for that. The main character has already become the owner of this enough. She feels sleepy because she really is still a child. This is enough for her. But then the girl remembered something and was immediately horrified. The maids wondered why their lady was so happy, and they assumed that she just really liked the tablet. There is no mention of a fine. The condition was to get on a financial cushion with the help of a monostone mining business. Reward 10,000 cash units. The girl was shocked by such a big award. She didn't want to strain herself once again. But while still a reader, she wrote for the characters to first do business and then start a relationship. You can't chill forever. And this is not at all because of the huge reward. She had 2 ongoing tasks. She was wondering why the first task was not completed, because she had already used her ability. Lulu realized that this might be because she rented the novel instead of spending money on it. Aftanis always acts fairly, and she should have read the conditions more carefully. It was a stab in the back. The little girl was very sad because this is complete nonsense. She accidentally let slip about the little devil. Nancy didn't understand which little devil we were talking about, and Anna asked who it was. The girl began to pretend that she was talking to the hamster and asked him why he did not answer and was silent. Nancy decided that she was simply crazy about the gift of a toy and had not yet recovered from the shock. Their lady was such a sweetheart, and she was not at all like the young gentleman. Lulu thought about it, and then she remembered that that bastard promised her beautiful brothers. If you remember how much she suffered because of him, it's hard to believe that he will do this. Although Lulu's dad really turned out to be cool, so the brothers must also be amazingly good. A new generation worthy of her handsome daddy. Lulu turned to the maids. Lulu asked them what kind of brothers she had. The maids did not know what to answer and tried to stall for time. The little girl was wondering why her skin was getting cold. She realized that she should not have expected anything from that devil. Fooled again. Today the owner is finally returning to the castle. The lobby is richly decorated for a fitting welcome for the Duke. A majestic interior that will immediately make the gentleman feel better, and an intimidating atmosphere that matches the image of the Duke. The man asked if the chief was sure that such darkness would not frighten her. He asked what he was talking about. The servant spoke about the little lady. The Duke's imminent return is connected precisely with her. The woman heard that the nobles had already finished her off with their letters. In them, they asked her to be their granddaughter. The man was shocked that someone from the duchy was so stupid as to believe baseless rumors. The chief said that they must not make a single mistake in preparing for his lordship's return. Lulu sat in the carriage and thought that she should have run away before Anna put this on her. Anna wanted her to take the blanket because she would be cold, but the little lady ran after Dad. It was very hot in this suit, as if it were a real heat. The Duke asked if she was wrapped in cotton wool. Lulu said that her sisters said she would be cold, so they put it on her. Dad asked if she was cold, but Lua was hot. There's still halfway to go. Anyone would be hot if they turned him into a real bear cub. The Duke did not understand why she continued to sit in this. Lua didn't know how to say it, because a native of the north wouldn't understand. Lulu said that after all, her sisters dressed her like that because they were worried about her health. And to be honest, she's even happy. She always envied the children who complained that their mothers wrapped them in 50 layers. The Duke still understood her, despite the fact that it was a little crazy. Some things are useless and annoying. But Lua, for some reason, doesn't want to brush them aside. The Duke had a strange feeling. The little girl didn't understand what useless meant. This was her medicine. When Dad got hurt, no one put medicine on his side, but Lulu decided to help, even if the scar doesn't disappear. He also called her annoying. The Duke took his daughter by the cheek and pulled a little. The Duke was very grateful to his daughter. The servants could not believe that this little bear was really the same lady, because there was not a hint of malice in her. The servants' expectations were not true. The baby sneezed, and the Duke asked if she was cold. It looked like he was hinting that he could cool her off forever. After all, when a person dies, his body becomes numb. Everyone was running around like mad and trying to do something, and all because Lulu sneezed. The chief did not understand anything, and the maids thought that the Duke was planning a mass murder. The ruler took Lulu in his arms. All the servants were in complete shock when the master picked up and hugged the child. And then the little girl shouted at the Duke, calling him a kidnapper. Dad told her to sit still. But the Duke told Lulu that if anyone else dared to take her in his arms like that, then she should not sit so quietly. The servants believed that their master had definitely been replaced. The brothers were happy to finally see their father. Dad told Lulu that these were her brothers. When the little girl saw it, she was pleasantly surprised. Ares was very handsome and the second son of Duke Feraton. Ixian was the third son of the Duke. His appearance was also top-notch. Lulu truly regrets giving this world 0 stars. A place where such beauty exists should get all 10. The little girl decided that she needed to make a good impression. Dad told Lulu to say hello. The girl greeted and said that she was Lutia. The boy remembered her. The main character was very happy because she thought that he knew her, and perhaps fell in love with her at first sight. But in reality, the little girl was making an innocent smile, designed to make a good impression. The boy asked if she was that weakling. It was Ixian, and his character level immediately dropped to 0 for Lulu. The Duke called Ixian because he was about to go home, because he thought that just saying hello would be enough. Ixian advised them to be careful, because their weaklings would quickly die. The little girl was simply terrified. Ixian's intimidation level increased to the limit. Lulu took back her words about 10 stars. The second brother approached the baby and told the baby that she was probably tired from the trip. But Lulu was shy and said no. He introduced himself and said that he was Ares, her second brother. He said she must be cold, because outside the duchy it is much warmer. The boy took her hands in his. Lulu said that everything was fine because she dressed warmly. Ares said that despite this, the hands are icy. Ares said that he would not allow his little sister to freeze. All his indicators immediately increased. The little girl looked at him like he was a star and was in complete shock. There is a real ray of light in front of her. She was very grateful to the little devil, but he believed that she had drawn conclusions too early. The cold north is completely unsuitable for a fragile 4-year-old girl, but Lulu lives well here. This weather is just perfect for enjoying the hot springs. In her previous life, she never dreamed of this. Anna told the ladies that they needed to dry their hair because it was fashionable to catch a cold. Now that Lulu had warmed up and changed clothes, she was ready to see her brothers. Lulu greeted. Ares was glad to see Lutia. He called her to sit down with them. Ares, the second eldest brother who greeted her so warmly on the first day. Ixian considered her very annoying. He believed that they said hello yesterday, and that would be enough. The guy didn't understand why she came here and assumed that she hoped to make friends, or that brotherly love should awaken in them. Lulu understood that the third brother Ixian was still hostile. Ares said that he was very surprised when he saw the baby yesterday. He didn't expect that he had such a charming sister. He suggested that she try to get closer as quickly as possible, since they had been apart for so long. The little girl truly considered him an angel. Despite his black hair and scarlet eyes, this kind look and sunny aura reveal him as an angel. Ares and Lulu had a downright family idol, and Ixian sat dissatisfied and opposed their relationship. Ixian told his brother that he must have eaten something wrong, because he didn't understand what was good about that weakling. Lulu thought he was a complete brute and didn't understand how he dared poke fun at his older brother. Ares said she was cute. Ixian said that he did not know that his older brother's eyesight was so bad. Lulu thought they had dropped the formalities. But still, the second brother is definitely an angel. If she were in his place, she would show this brat what respect for elders is. The third brother asked Lulu why she was looking at him. He started shouting, asking what was that strange look on her face. The main character herself did not notice how she was bewitched by his handsome face, and she lost control of herself. The little girl was unlucky with her third brother. Lulu said that she can't help but look at beautiful people, because it is inherent in them by nature. Ixian didn't understand that she was even saying that, but the little girl wasn't the least bit ashamed. Ares asked the little girl if she thought Ixian was handsome. Disappointment was visible on him. Now he knew what her tastes were. Lulu didn't want her little angel to make such a sad face. She started saying that Ares is more beautiful and much better. He almost thought that she liked Ixian better, but Lulu said she liked Ares better. Ixian was defeated. Lulu said Ares was much better. Ixian was already fed up with this and said that their vision problems were hereditary. A notification arrived that someone dared to mock the reader of Aftanas himself. It was unforgivable. The little girl thought that using Chinese wisdom in a world with Western customs was quite strange, and she had no desire to rule the country. It must show who the true conqueror is here. She had to get Ixian to recognize her as a member of the family. Reward ticket for 3,000 cash units. Lulu, of course, didn't mind getting along with them, but she didn't really want to force her friendship on someone who didn't need it for nothing. She thought that she could agree that the proverb in the family has its black sheep works here. The penalty for refusal was deprivation of life. Lulu was in despair, and Ares did not understand what had happened. Ares ordered Ixian to apologize because he was making Lulu cry. The guy just laughed at this. He said he expected nothing more from the weakling, but Lua said that this was not true, and she's actually strong. For that matter, she will definitely defeat him. Ixian laughed. He asked if she could stand it. This was the same magic that turned out to be so strong for one weakling, that her dad transferred to another house, and she also dares to challenge Ixian. But Ares came up to the baby and covered her. He said that this was too much. Ixian added that it would be even more interesting with him. Ares said that it seemed to him that his brother believed in himself too much to say such things to his older brother. Lulu agreed and did not understand where the third son was going to be raised. But she was glad that in such a situation her angel remained unperturbed. Ares told his brother that now he will remind Ixian what the hierarchy is in this house. The little girl was scared because in an instant Ares was already near his brother. Lulu didn't understand what to do. The little girl hoped that this would turn into something creepy for her. She hoped there would be no bloodshed. The main character remembered the proverb, "When whales fight, shrimp die." For example, if kings conflict, the people suffer. And she had just begun to enjoy her life in the novel. That's why Lulu won't let this be taken away from her. Lulu did not want to use this method, being in her right mind, but there is simply no other choice. Lulu apologized. The little girl said it was all because Lulu was too cute, and that's why there's no need to fight over Lulu. The girl said that she liked the two of them. So from now on, Lulu will try to be just a little nice. Ixian asked what nonsense she was talking about because she ruined all the fun. Today she managed to somehow resolve the conflict, but next time it may not work. But the life of the main character is at stake. Lulu considered herself the most hardcore Lufin who had read a ton of novels. Therefore, the girl knows exactly how to solve any problem in this world, only there is not enough cash. There is no question of borrowing the abilities of some heroine. Lulu still has the ability to read other people's emotions, and her impeccable knowledge of the world of novels has not gone away. The main character turned to the main characters and said that she would become their worthy successor. Ixian turned back and asked the little girl why she followed him, and he added that she was wearing some kind of tweeters on her feet, not shoes. The girl said that Lulu wants to play with Ixian, and her dad told her to wear these shoes. For the third son, the father's word is law. The guy added that Ares, who always protects her, is not around. Ixian said that if she wants to play with him, then they will finally test whether she can withstand this magic. Ixian is having a blast, and he can't wait to see the girl's reaction. But immediately Ixian became confused, and something began to worry him. Lulu asked her brother if he would really play with her. Lua was very happy. Ixian was shocked. He thought she was weak and asked if she had lost her fear. The little girl suggested playing catch-up. Ixian was to lead, and Lua began to run away. The guy was shocked. He thought that she was completely... Everything went according to plan. Strategy against Big Brother. 1, don't give up, no matter how many times you are rejected. 2, always smile at him. Sister Ixian is already living her second life. Lulu's knew that he would threaten her with his magic. Even 100 years would not be enough for such a sucker to learn how to intimidate adults. Lua will not fall for such a nursery. The girl started to fall, but decided not to panic because it's a common cliché when her older brother comes along and saves her. But Ixian believed that she was daydreaming because she had no business jumping like a mountain goat. Someone grabbed the baby. She exhaled. It was still Ixian. He said that he knew that she was a clumsy grouse. The little girl believed that this meant that he was not so bad. Or maybe he just gave in to Lulu's cuteness. He despises himself, not understanding why he caught Lulu. Ixian feels very irritated. This was visible even without glasses. She asked her brother if she annoyed him. The guy answered positively, but Lulu just wanted to be friends with her. Ixian was shocked. My father appeared behind me. The guy has already seen this many times, but still can't get used to how he becomes with her. Lulu asked Dad if he was done with his work for the day, but Dad said not yet. The little girl understood that this meant that he had no time for yum-yum with her. Dad stroked his daughter's cheek and said that she always has time for yum-yum with her. Ixian was simply in shock. He didn't understand what yum was yum. The guy decided that he was starting to have hearing problems due to nervousness, and all because of this lump of cotton candy. Dad asked Lulu if she had been with Ixian all this time. Lulu said yes. The father asked if he had mocked her. The guy understood that if she told lies, then there was no way for him to get away with it. After all, this is not the first time he intimidates her with his magic, so he decided that he had better confess. Ixian turned to His Highness and said that he was the truth, but Lulu interrupted him and said that everything was fine. Lulu said that no one bullied her and Ixian even played with her, and she had so much fun. The guy was shocked that she was having fun with him, and I didn't understand what she was talking about at all. Dad asked if it was more fun. The baby asked again, and he asked if she had more fun than with him. The baby's legs hurt. Ixian had been an eyesore for several days in a row, and then suddenly he seemed to disappear into thin air. Lulu tried to find him, but the duchy's estate is simply huge. To make matters worse, she had completely used up her ability to read minds, and precisely at the moment when she desperately needs to follow in the footsteps of the main characters, the task will not complete itself. First, she needs to meet with this asshole, and he seems to have disappeared into the ground. She felt herself getting old because of it. Ares apologized and said that he couldn't contain his laughter. The little girl didn't even notice him at first. The guy didn't understand why his sister would grow old at that age. Apparently the problem is not an easy one. Lulu told Ares that life is generally hard. Ares added that she sighed very charmingly, and yet his heart bleeds when he sees how his sister cannot find a place for herself. So Ares asked if she would share her worries with him. Lulu said that Ixian hides from her all the time. Lulu said that she really wanted to be friends with him, because otherwise he will just die, and all he does is complain about how she annoys him and calls Ixian mean. Ares added that he did not know that she liked Ixian so much. Ares was even a little jealous. Lulu said that Ares is 100 times better than him. The guy asked if it was true. Lulu assured her that Ixian could never compare to him. Lulu called it a healing potion, and in general he is the light of her eyes. Ares kissed the baby on the cheek. It was a great honor for him. Lulu was scared and in shock. In this world there was a handsome brother who adored his little sister. She gave not even 10, but 100 stars. The baby called him an angel, but immediately her face changed. Ares didn't understand what happened. Lulu said that that column cracked, and out of the blue. Ares told Lulu to go with him to the estate. She was shocked that they would leave so easily. The baby ran away, and Ares looked towards the column with a smile. The girl sat sadly at the table. Anna asked if everything was okay with her lady. Ixian at all lately. The maid said that the young master always avoids crowded places. But before that, she encountered him. The maid said it was nice, and she added that apparently Ixian had not avoided her before. Lulu realized that it turned out that now he didn't even want to show himself to her. She couldn't believe that her attempts to get closer only alienated her from each other. Project: create a loving brother for yourself. The main character suggested that she was too hasty because she was afraid of failure. Lulu decided to put herself in Ixian's place. She recalled how he said that she didn't even have magic, calling her a non-entity if he doesn't hurt her just because she doesn't have magic. Lua asked the maids what magic was. The maids asked again. The baby said that everyone in her family has it, and she just wants to know more about her family. Anna said that she did not know the details. But magic is something that is passed down in the Ferriton family from generation to generation. It is very different from wizard's mana. And the auras of knights, it was about a special power. At the same time, she instills fear in other people, black like darkness itself. Her Lufin sense tells her the right answer, and Lulu was shocked that their magic was something like the power of the devil. But the maid said that this was not true. The reader realized that she had made a mistake. Such rumors circulate because it is a powerful force. When Nancy first saw Ferritin magic in action, her legs gave way. It's scary to even look at this. The little girl said that she wouldn't say it was scary. The maids were very surprised. Lulu said that she had already seen their family's magic in action a couple of times. Black had never seemed beautiful to her, but then you could feel with your whole being that the power of this dark force was limitless. Fear is a natural reaction to something like this, but in those moments, Lulu forgot how to breathe, not from sticky fear but from indescribable beauty. The magic was like night, for the warmest night possible, which lulls her to sleep and gives her a good rest. Ares was shocked that magic is a warm night. He asked Ixian if he had heard this. Ares told his brother that that column was not to blame for anything, and asked him if he would moderate his ardor. The guy recalled how Lulu told him that she wanted to be friends with him, and told her father that she had fun with him. But he also remembered how he told Ares that he could not compare with anyone, and he is the best, and also about the fact that he avoids her. Ixian just tisked and said that he didn't believe her because she was a common liar. The man was shocked. He didn't understand how this was possible. The young lady received all his assets from the Marquee. Even that mine is on the list. This was a conversation between the vassals of the Hecrog. The duchy's vassals from the estate on the island were pleasantly shocked because this was no ordinary lady. Ignoring the Marquis's slippery excuses, she returned everything that he had once stolen from her. The guard himself saw this magnificent scene. This guard was the Viscount Deer. He is the leader of Lulu's fan club, who accompanied her to her meeting with the Marquise. Lulu didn't understand why it was always she who was ashamed here. And since they mentioned it, she decided to take up the quest to obtain mana stones. The little girl asked her dad what about that mine of mana stones that her uncle gave her. The girl asked him if she could control it herself. The man said, "The 100 Lady is still too young for such a thing." They agreed with him, and she didn't even receive financial literacy lessons. Dad told her not to be afraid to throw that money away. After all, her dad already has too many of them. The gentleman was told that the lady had neither experience nor knowledge. They assured the gentleman that it was too early for her to manage the business. He was asked to reconsider his decision. Lulu thought so herself, because she blurted out without thinking. Because if she fails, the fine will turn her into an ordinary child forever. The Duke ordered them to stop chatting. His daughter wants to play with what belongs to her, and they have no right to interfere. Lulu didn't understand when she said that because she said she wanted to run a business and not play with money. The Viscount was walking with a gift, but then he did not notice something strange. He didn't understand what the noise was. The man assumed that Mr. Ixian was training. The Viscount was glad to see Alan the butler. Lately, the gentleman often stays late at the training ground. Maybe the Duke's return had that effect on him. The butler asked what was in the Viscount's box. He assumed there was cake. The Viscount asked if Alan was really so interested. There's a black forest inside, a cake with an incredible amount of cherries, prepared especially for a young lady. He was very interested to see the reaction. He gets so much inspiration from her normal facial expressions. Lights some kind of spark in the soul. The butler didn't understand why he should be happy at all. The Viscount wondered how she would react today. Ixian was training. Lately, his magic has become even more destructive. The man came closer to him. He asked Ixian how about calming down a little. The man asked if he was doing this because of the young lady. Ixian called the man a pathetic creature. It's natural to be afraid of magic. This is a normal reaction. The guy thought about the little girl's words that magic is like night. He considered it a lie, just a blatant lie. A lie with the help of which she wants, like a parasite, to cling to the strong and survive. All weaklings do this. But why then can't he get these words out of his head? Ixian was surprised that she was not here, but it was clear that she was probably now with her beloved Ares. This little thing wasn't looking for him because she really liked him. He heard the squeak of her shoes, which annoyed him every day, but for some reason he immediately fell silent. She's nowhere to be found. Ixian does not understand why this is so. The guy noticed a lot of footprints and the baby's shoe. He believed that this was the fate of the weak, because they are not even able to defend themselves. Ixian always thought so, and now I should think so. But now he wanted to find, catch, and capture them right now. He found them. Ixian asked them where they came from, calling them pathetic insects. The guy dealt with him using magic. The baby was covered in their blood. Just as he thought. It was all a lie. The way she pretended she wasn't afraid. The fact that she understands everything, that she likes it, her smile, the desire to always follow him. The baby crawled to her brother and thanked him for saving her. Even at such a moment, she carefully selects words that will bring her benefit. Ixian thought about just killing her right now. He said Lulu was shaking with fear. He is in such a bad mood that he is ready for anything. It was clear from her face that he had caught her by surprise. Lulu tearfully said that she was scared, calling him a dumbass. She was very scared, and she asked him why it took him so long. Ixian did not understand what it was. It sounded like she was counting on him, as if for her, his appearance was something taken for granted. She threw herself into her brother's arms. He felt warm. She began to cry in her brother's arms. The guy thought that if she continued to cry so bitterly, she would melt like cotton candy. This has never happened before. All the heirs of the Ferraton family possessed powerful strength from birth. Therefore, they did not need protection from kidnappings, and they could move freely around the domains of the duchy without escort. Just like Lutia that day, a kidnapping right on the estate is simply unthinkable. Accomplices should be immediately found among the servants, but at that time everyone was at their jobs. The Duke asked if they wanted to say that no one was to blame for the abduction on the territory of his own home. His lordship ordered them to ensure his sister's safety, and they couldn't even do that. The guy asked how they would be punished for the fact that because of them, Lutitia's life was in danger. The man said that they were undoubtedly right, but they decided to start discussions when they caught the criminals. These two were undoubtedly mercenaries and worked for the customer. However, the problem is that they are both dead. But they can't question the lady. Lulu came into the room and said that she could. Everyone was shocked that the lady came. Dad asked the little girl why she came, because he told her to rest. But Lulu said that she had already rested. The little girl told her dad that she would answer all the questions and didn't understand why he didn't ask her about everything. The Duke said that there was no need to force the child to remember this horror. But Lulu said that she, too, is Ferraton. Plus, Lulu seems to have an idea who the culprit is. She received a task to find out the criminal. The little girl said that right before the kidnapping, someone sent her to Ixian's training ground. Dad asked who it was. Lulu pointed to the Viscount. Everyone was shocked, because the Viscount almost carried her in his arms. Although he looked at the young lady strangely, the man was shocked by these words. The Viscount said that he would not have dared to blow away the specks of dust. She told him not to try to push for pity. Such cases are resolved by simply checking the facts. Uncle Dier told her that Ixian was at the training ground. She asked the assistant's uncle if this was true. The man said that the young master came for afternoon training. Lulu asked Uncle Dier when he found out that Ixian was there. He said that while he was going to see the lady, it was a little after 3 o'clock. The little girl asked how long Ixian stayed at the training ground. Not even 10 minutes had passed. The young master vented his anger and left. It turned out that by the time Lulu finished her dessert, Ixian was no longer on the site. But the Viscount interrupted her, saying that he did not know this and thought that he would stay there longer. Lulu noticed that Ixian has an extremely changeable temperament. Schedules and plans are definitely not about him. Who, if not Lulu, who spent so much time trying to keep up with him, should know about this. Moreover, because of his eternal hostility towards others. Few people dare come to the training ground while he is there. Lulu said that if she had walked through the main building as usual, she would probably have collided with Ixian. But, on the advice of Uncle Dier, she went to her brother through the eastern one. The servants were whispering about something. Because of her route, there was no way she and Ixian could cross paths. Only if he hadn't suddenly decided to come back. The men agreed that they really couldn't. As a result, Lulu found herself out of Ixian's sight. The location for her abduction was perfect. They wondered if he had sent her there on purpose. They called him a vile kidnapper. The Viscount began shouting that it was not him and that he was in no way to blame for this. Because he is loyal only to the Duke, to the core, Lulu said she knows. Lulu asked him to tell her who it was now. Who is the real criminal? The Viscount was shocked and asked what she meant and what the name was. Lulu said that he should tell her the name of the criminal. The little girl asked Uncle Dier to think carefully, because he knows exactly who it is. The man was in shock and did not understand what was going on, and then it came to him. A couple of hours ago, he was telling the butler that he was bringing the lady's cake and said that he couldn't wait for her reaction. The butler asked whether she would eat it in her room or in another place. The Viscount thought that the lady could use some time to unwind in the fresh air. The man added that besides, she liked flowers. The man was surprised. And he said that just in the eastern garden, there is a gazebo on which a warming spell has been cast. The Viscount ordered the butler Alan to prepare that gazebo. An extremely wise decision, the butler noted. He was sure that the lady would really like it. The Duke ordered that this creature be brought immediately. Ares was impressed by his little sister. He said that she was very smart in them. The little girl was shocked, because the butler's guilt had not yet been proven, but he was already praising her. Ares seemed convinced of this. The man brought the butler Alan. He screamed to be let go. Alan told the Duke that this was some kind of mistake, and he only recommended the Viscount a place for tea. A man came into the room and said that they had found a kidnapping request in his room. There was also an unidentified communication object hidden there. Alan began to tell the Duke that she had been framed. The Duke ordered him to be locked in a tower of ice spikes, and he will personally conduct the interrogation. Everyone was shocked when the lady identified the butler Alan. To survive such horror and then immediately calmly understand the past, and this same lady, their tiny, fluffy, and truly brilliant lady, believed in his innocence. Although the main suspect was the Viscount, after all, the idea with the gazebo was hers. And he also said about the lady's training ground. Everyone thought he was crazy, but he was very young. But she believed him, and she even asked who the real criminal was. This was not a simple question. The Duke ordered him to be taken away. The little girl thought that this was not true at all. Lulu thought he was partly right. Her guesses were based on his common sense. Viscount Deer was the last person she saw before the abduction. Even if the criminals had succeeded, the Viscount would certainly not have escaped suspicion. She could not believe that a man who had personally seen how she brought out the Marquis of Terrence would only take on such a risky role if he were like her uncle. Once the criminal was found, the time had come to execute those who dared to neglect the safety of her daughter. And they have already forgotten. Lulu told her father that this happened because she wandered wherever she wanted. They had nothing to do with it. The Duke said that she had every right to wander wherever she pleased, because this was her home, and they are needed so that nothing threatens her here. She's smart, so she can understand what he's talking about. Lulu realized it didn't work, but there is no choice. The little girl said that he wanted to scold them because Lulu was not sitting in her room, and that means it's all Lulu's fault. Dad said no, and Lulu said that she would sit in her room all her life. It's all Lulu's fault. The Duke said it sounded good. Ares turned to his sister and said that he would bring her whatever he wanted. Flowers, decorations, and even the sky itself. Lulu didn't understand what came over his little angel. Lulu was very grateful, and she said that she would die much earlier from lack of physical activity. And I said goodbye to my dad and brother in advance. The men were in shock and did not understand what this farewell was for. The Duke said that he thought and decided that responsibility for what he had done could be carried out not only through the death penalty. The son was in solidarity with his father. The Duke said that their new punishment would be discussed later, but for now he sent them away. They were shocked that the lady managed to convince the gentleman. They didn't believe that this was possible. They were all grateful to the lady and shouted to her that they loved the lady with snow-white skin and a heart. The Vassals were incredibly grateful, and the girl's reputation increased again. The task was completed. Shame is a matter of minutes, but human life is priceless. In addition, she also has a task to complete. The baby also received cash for her reputation. Lulu was completely shocked that this was not a lottery, but straight-away money. And also, due to her increased influence, she was given a ticket for 20,000 cash units. There are still unfinished tasks listed on the status window. It still hasn't counted. This meant that Ixian still did not recognize her as a full member of the family. Lulu thought he was a stubborn sheep, but she decided that she should still be grateful to him for saving her. To begin with, she decided to increase her wealth because she has 3 lottery tickets, and all in order to crush Ixian. She summoned the Ring of Fortune. She was shocked by the way the wheel moved there. Everything was under control. She opened her inventory. Lulu just left something useful there for just such an occasion. Potion of Good Luck. This potion, which mysteriously appeared in England, brings good luck to everyone who receives it. It is now in Lulu's hands. However, to gain good luck, she must drink it within the next 4 days, after which the vial will be passed on to the next person. Lulu was surprised when she saw that same letter of happiness from England. She hoped that this potion at least worked. The effect of increasing luck when participating in all lotteries within 1 hour after ingestion. It was perfect. The baby began to drink the potion. It was a very familiar taste for the main character. It was like mint chocolate, and Lulu liked it, although everyone loves the taste of mint chocolate. Lulu feels the strength awakening in her with her whole body. The power of mint chocolate. She was ready to spin the tape measures. The little girl decided to use all her lottery tickets. Something lit her up. She won 20,000 cash as well as 5,500 cash units. The little girl couldn't believe in these bags. The potion was awesome. Lulu was happy because she can now invoke the novella, "The terminally ill villainess does not want to fall in love." Since she can no longer find out what Ixian is thinking, she now needs the power to test his level of sympathy. Ixian asked Ares what he wanted and asked if he had come to kill him. Ares told him not to say anything stupid, because if he kills her, he won't be able to prove his strength. The guy gave his brother a drink and asked him to tell him why he acted so recklessly, although he admits that it turned out very impressive. Ixian told him to back off. Ares added that he was lucky that there was no explosion of magic. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here anymore. The guy didn't understand what another explosion was because he's not that brainless. But it wasn't just a matter of sanity, because if he allowed it, then Cotton Candy would also die. Ares added that he was wondering why he didn't let Lulu in when she came to visit him. She was so sad. Ixian kicked him out of the room. Ares said it was amazing. He never thought that he would decide to open up to her. The younger one thought that his brother had gone completely crazy. Ares accepted that he was saying no and closed his brother's eyes. Ixian felt his drained mana quickly replenishing itself. The guy didn't understand why Ares would help him recover. Ares said that he is his beloved little brother and he can leave him in trouble. Ixian said that this was nonsense. The brother told Ixian not to lock the door just because he didn't want to show his weaknesses. He said that Lutia desperately wants to see him. Ixian was very angry about his older brother. And what makes it even more infuriating is that it was he who helped her get better. He thought about his brother's words about how Lulu missed him. Finding Cotton Candy is very easy. After all, this little one immediately attracts attention wherever she goes. He saw the little girl in the window and thought that she was impudent and decided that he should go and scold her. Since she believes that a person is obliged to see her, she should want it. Only his legs are already carrying him to the cotton candy, as if it were something taken for granted. It was a strange thing. He couldn't believe that she wasn't afraid of him, even after seeing that bloody mess. Most people almost lose their minds at the sight of black clouds of magic. He didn't want Cotton Candy to also shake in fear of his powers. Ixian was shocked by such thoughts. He didn't understand why her opinion should bother him at all. He decided that it made no difference how this girl would react to his magic. Exactly. Even if she fell right in front of him, bleeding, he would not care at all. Lulu started bleeding from her mouth. The maids were very scared. She began to fall, and Ixian went towards her. The little girl saw her brother running and mentally told him that there was no need to worry so much and that everything was fine with her. And it's all just because of a new ability. The main character decided that she would pause to talk about the power she had chosen. The essence of Lulu's new ability lies in its name. Cough, cough, I'm getting better. The blood meant that her illness was beginning to subside. This is the ability of a villain whose curse becomes weaker the more people love her. Hemoptysis appears from love for her. The fact that the main character started bleeding as soon as Ixian's magic touched her is just great. The brother asked what was wrong with the child. This reaction of her body proves his love for her. Lulu's immunity improves and her fatigue goes away. Lulu told him not to worry so much about her because everything is really fine with her. The baby lost consciousness after these words. He tried to awaken Lutia. The girl wanted him to stop shaking her because her head was already pounding. She felt very sleepy. Lulu was sleeping in her room. Dad was next to her. The doctor said that the results of the examination showed that everything was fine with the lady. And even if she has no magic, the blood of the family of the great Ferriton still flows in her veins. That's why they ask for mercy. They assumed that all the negative energy had left her. In order to get rid of such filth, enormous concentration and the lion's share of resources were required. Since the lady is still small, her body simply could not withstand the overload. However, she should soon wake up completely healthy. The Duke did not understand why she could not live a day without making him go crazy with excitement. First a kidnapping and now hemoptysis. And not only this, when he had just returned from the war, he saw in front of him a starving child in an ugly state. Dad thought that if he fattened her up and dressed her beautifully, everything would be resolved, that his presence alone would be enough. However, Lulu wants more and is always causing problems. Despite this, just saying her name, he feels an unprecedented sweetness in his mouth. The Duke could not believe that a person like her existed in her world. He is ready to protect and pamper her until the end of his days. Ixian sat under the room. He heard his father leave the room. He said it was all because of him, because he constantly used magic around her, even if it wasn't a magical attack. Her body cannot withstand his mana in any form. Even knowing this, he still continued. This was the first time the Duke had seen him act like a lost child. He asked him if his son knew why he sent Lulu to another house. Ixian said he knew, and it was to protect her from magic. Only now he has already returned home. And while the Duke is here, no one is able to harm Lutia with their magic. But one day, Ixian completely covered her with his spell. And he did it on purpose. To experience it, tried it again and again, because he wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust my sister and love her with all my soul. Ixian is just a pathetic coward. A coward who was afraid that if he falls in love with Lutia, she will hurt his feelings. Fearing such an outcome, he rashly injured her, causing pain. Although, in reality, a long time ago I fell in love with my sister. The guy started crying. Dad told the guy to look after Lutia. Ixian asked if he could do this, but he himself said that this is impossible, because he could harm the baby if he's around. Dad called him an arrogant boy. He asked him if he thought that her father was not able to protect her, even if he threw out all the reserves of his magic on her. Ixian said he didn't think so. The guy stood in front of the door, very worried. He felt a strange feeling. This is the first time the guy feels something like this. Ixian entered the room. The boy stroked his sister's cheek. He said that if she suddenly died, he would definitely finish her off. But he immediately changed his mind and said that he would not finish him off. So he asks her to open her eyes because it's all his fault. And he admitted to her that he also wanted to make friends with her. The chills go away and the internal organs are strengthened. Lulu believed that since they themselves had injured her, they should at least treat her normally. She was happy that the amount of fat had decreased. The baby was surprised when she saw Ixian. She remembered that she had lost consciousness. Lulu asked him if he had been courting her all this time. The guy said that she was such a weakling that he simply had no choice. She did not have a temperature. And the guy's soul suddenly warmed. It seemed to the little girl that he was just an arrogant kid. She didn't know what kind of life he had lived until then. But one thing she was sure about was the past that left a deep scar on his heart. Lulu said that she had been completely alone for a long time, which is why she now clings so desperately to others. She prayed at night for at least someone to be with her. Lulu wanted to have a real family, and it seemed to the little girl that she was simply afraid of loneliness. But that's not the point. When Lulu has someone next to her, she becomes stronger. Your soul becomes warm and joyful, and flowers bloom inside from happiness. Ixian also needs such a person. The one who will be there no matter what, the support that will always support her. Lulu turned to Ixian, and the guy asked what it was. The little girl told him that she needed him. The guy was surprised. Lulu asked him if he would become her older brother. He thought for a while and said that she was weak. She is weak, so from now on, he will protect her, and he will become her older brother. The task was completed, and the mental state of the object of her task stabilized. The main character has incredible influence on one of the characters who is able to change the future. Ixian recognized her as his sister. The baby could improve her characteristics. Now Lulu has truly become part of the family. Lulu invited Ixian to sleep with her. The guy was shocked by this. Lulu said that big brothers should put their little sisters to bed. Ixian agreed because she is still a weakling. Lulu told her brother to pat her on the head. The baby was glad that he actually stroked her, and now she asked her to somersault, do a backflip, and clapped her hands 3 times. Ixian asked the little girl if she was tired of living. Lulu was upset because he didn't fall for it. Lutia wished her brother good night, but the guy still wished her good night too. He took the baby's hand and they closed their eyes together, and they fell asleep. The baby did not understand where she was, assuming that she was in a dream. The same little devil greeted her. He said that all this time he believed in her. The little girl grabbed him and said that's where he got caught. Lulu called him a dirty fraud and told him not to pretend to be a saint. The main character asked him if he knew how much she suffered because of this, but he said that he had already fulfilled his part of the agreement. She was born into a rich family, she has a handsome father and brothers, and she was gifted with abilities. Lulu thought about it and agreed with this herself. But she immediately told him that he expected this, but it wasn't like that. The messenger said that this is too much because she always gives him a 0-star rating. But as soon as she sees a beautiful face, she doesn't spare him even 10 stars. He knows everything perfectly well. Lulu believed that there was nothing unusual here, and if he was dissatisfied with something, then let him work on himself. The messenger said that when he returns his body, she will definitely give it to him. He didn't say anything important and time is already running out, so it's time for him. Lulu didn't understand what he was talking about. He flew away and Lulu woke up in her bed. There were many flowers on it. Anna was glad that the lady woke up. She said that these flowers were left by young Mr. Ixian. The baby didn't understand why Ixian gave her flowers. She was shocked because she didn't believe it. Lua assumed that she was indeed dreaming. Otherwise, why would Ixian give her flowers? Anna assumed that he left them in his place. Still, the young master woke up first and left while she was sleeping. If they hadn't come in, he would have continued to doze with her. However, Ixian does not show his sleeping face to anyone, so he left the room. He woke up and went home without even saying goodbye. But the very fact that Ixian left her flowers. With the arrival of the young lady at the palace, the situation changed dramatically. It was as if his lordship had become a different person altogether. One day, one man heard him say yum yum. Everyone heard this except one vassal. The man was shocked that the duke had never said such a thing in front of him. He envied the ears that didn't hear it. He didn't understand what kind of yum yum, assuming it's a code name for someone who must not be named. In general, the more important thing is that his lordship values his daughter very much. She was able to obtain the fortune of the Marquess of Terrence. However, considering the unprofitability of the mine due to the empty mana stones, the young lady is still just a child when it comes to business. She achieved a lot at 4 years old. Moreover, she has not even begun the training that every heir undergoes. Someone heard that they are already applying for the position of her assistant, presumably Viscount. Still, Deer is a genius among geniuses. Even if he doesn't have everything at home, he achieved the title through skill alone. Considering that the young lady didn't have any magic, he thought that she wouldn't be able to influence the succession system in any way. However, the picture is completely different. Young shoots should be crushed as soon as possible to prevent them from becoming a real problem in the future. They asked Mr. Aries what he thought about this. Lulu decided to start leveling up. An identity check was in progress. The reader who made a deal with Aftanas. The check is completed. The level of the ability has been increased, and new functions have become available to it. The list of works function is open. Lulu was glad that she was now allowed to summon her old novels without spending cash on them. The reader can also add a new ability. In this transparent crystal, it was no coincidence that the reader found herself in this world. Lulu didn't understand what he was talking about and why she was there for a reason. She was chosen because her comments were the most popular. So she must prepare for the moment when the light fades and the world falls into the arms of darkness. The little girl did not understand that this meant that the apocalypse would come. She was warned that winter was coming and she should be on alert. She decided that this might be that cliché when the dukedom is suddenly attacked by a dragon or some kind of demon. Lulu hoped she wasn't being asked to become a paladin. Her family and everyone she loves will be caught in a cold north wind that they will never be able to resist. However, the main character is no longer alone, and if she clenches her fists in an attempt to resist evil, there will be those nearby who will become her support. She really isn't alone anymore. Now she has close people. The alert told the reader not to be afraid, because she would be able to overcome all difficulties precisely because it was her. But Lulu couldn't believe that such a little thing would be able to do anything. But her past life was enough for her, in which she was pushed around by everyone and everything. She decided that she would not allow this to happen again. Lulu decided that she would not follow the plot and doom herself to tragedy. And for this, she needs strength. And she can only get it by doing this. She decided to accept all the tasks. Lulu took the risk of not even checking their contents because that was the only way she could progress. Even if among them there are difficult tasks, the failure of which does not threaten a fine, she will also complete them. The main character decided to take the helm of fate herself. A new task was received and Lulu was surprised. The assignment said that she had to kiss her dad, ride on Ixian's back, and eat something delicious with Ares. His lordship has arrived, and with him a young lady. They agreed that he let her into his office, but it was strange to come to the meeting hall with a child. The man turned to the Duke. He said that this is not just another meeting, but a monthly meeting on important issues. The man added that the lady was too young for such a thing and was not connected with any of the cases discussed today, and he thinks that she should not take part in such an event, since she has no right to do so. The Duke told the Viscount that his breath smelled and asked if he had brushed his teeth. Everyone was in complete shock and didn't understand what kind of teeth they were. Ixian sat down and asked Viscount Vineyard why he hadn't brushed his teeth in the morning. The Viscount began to feel very shy. Everyone was in complete shock. This brought an awkward silence. The woman was surprised that Ixian was now taking part in the meetings. The man agreed because she had not appeared here for a long time. Everyone assumed that a wind of change was blowing in the Ferraton family. The Duke reported that he wanted to assemble a group of assistants to Lutia. Vassal said that this was too hasty a decision. Unlike his sons, she is an ordinary child. But another man said that what ordinary child would be able to uncover the scammer's scheme. The young lady defended the family's honor, which was almost tarnished by this incident. The man said that the power of their family was magic, and the Viscount asked if he was hinting that their lady was not good enough. The baby felt strange, because not only Dad but also the elders are silent. Lulu thought that they should vehemently oppose her involvement in family affairs. The girl suggested that this was a test to see if she was worthy of her own group of assistants. And this is probably all because she has no magic. Or maybe her dad made a deal with them. She had a mission in which she was asked to find another person involved in an attempted kidnapping. She couldn't believe that Dad, who was amazingly good at uncovering courtyard intrigues, had no idea who that person was. Lulu was sure that he knew everything for sure. Dad just trusts that she can figure it out on her own. There was also a task in which it was written that there was a traitor in the duchy who, like a parasite, skillfully hides from the suspicions of others. Only after passing this unspoken test will Lulu gain the right to create her own council. The little girl was wondering why her dad brought her here. Dad believed that she would understand everything without explanation. This is the first time that such high hopes have been placed on her. She kissed Dad. Lutia told him in his ear that she was very grateful to him for believing in her. Lulu must live up to his expectations. Meanwhile, the vassals were in shock. The Viscount thought that the lady was cute, while others were shocked by the gentleman's smile. The meeting ended, and Lulu needed to quickly complete the easy tasks. The next task was to do everything so that Ares recognizes her as a full-fledged member of the family. Could do it. She called Ares and invited him to eat cookies along with marshmallows and chocolate. Ares happily agreed, but Lulu felt something strange. She said that if he doesn't have time, then he can reschedule. The guy said that nothing is more important than drinking tea with his beloved sister. Lulu was delighted. It was great, but she didn't understand what Ixian had forgotten about. The guy said that she might be grateful that he kept her company. The little girl was afraid that she and Ares would quarrel again. She wanted him to sit quietly, but he wanted him not to command.